This conference will now be recorded.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Scott.
For the recording, we have Trustee Dressler, Trustee Schulte, Trustee Colner, Township Administrator Marshall, Fiscal Officer Pfeiffer, Economic Development Director Mr. Klein, Chief Bauer, Chief Meyer, Service Director Mr. Mitchell. I don't see any guests on. Different SB. Is that somebody?
No, you can see me.
Okay. Well, hi, Sandy, if it's Sandy. Okay. Marshall, you want to take the floor?
Sure. So just as a review of kind of the process we've gone through, we have had temporary appropriations in place since late December. They carry you through the first quarter of the year. Then we come up with permanent appropriations, and that's based on what our carryovers are from the previous year and any additional projects that the department heads would like to pursue. So a majority of the budget is always salaries and benefits. Operating expenses then would be next, and then there's capital items. So in late December 2020, we did establish capital project funds, and we transferred money from the police fund to a separate capital projects fund. And we also did the same for fire. So we have those capital projects in place, and they are to be used for specific capital items that were attached as a sheet to the resolutions when those capital projects funds were established. So anything that the departments are buying that would be on that list would be coming out of that fund. So do you have a preference as to where we start?
No, ma'am.
Actually, if you don't mind, because one of the biggest areas are the projects, the priority projects that the trustees voted on last meeting in 1,000.
Right.
And it seems to me that those maybe are better served to come out of the 29. What's that separate capital project fund we established?
2902, I believe.
Yes, ma'am, 2902.
So we have, that's fine, we can start there. We put in some but we established this fund last year also at this meeting. And this is the fund which we earmarked for the CIC funding. We have put the Cleveland Massillon sidewalk in here and the middle school parking lot project in here. But you're right, in general fund, they've absorbed quite a bit of the things we discussed at the previous capital meeting.
So I guess my first thought is CIC funding. I thought it was the direction of the team here that we were going to, instead of putting more cash into CIC, we were going to donate real property to CIC.
Okay.
Consistent with our delegation agreement that we executed in the last month. And that should therefore free up that $225,000.
All right, I knew we had talked about it. I didn't know that was a
Well, we did talk
decision.
about it. And the talk I remember was to give them notice. I would not turn it off this year. One, they don't have the property. Two, they need to budget plenty of time. So I would leave, my opinion is leave it on this year and then give them notice that it may not be existing next year.
So they have funds in their current bank account as we sit here today.
Yes,
That money basically came from the township in prior years.
yes.
And I'm considering that, and I'm also considering the fact that we, pursuant to our last meeting, we had, half dozen items that we wanted to pursue. You're not going to be able to pursue those items in fund CIC by $225,000.
My opinion would be let's go through and see what we can prioritize on that fund list and then see what we have to knock off in order to make the budget work and then decide if we can do it this year. I'm not a proponent of shutting them off when they think it's already come. Matter of fact, I think you've already budgeted for that. Is that right?
Yes, it is included in the budget
Yeah, we've already
for the
budgeted.
CIC.
Well, I get that. I'm not, that's not the end all be all, but let's see how it fits in to our priorities. And if we have projects that we know aren't gonna get funded till next year with grants and stuff, and we keep that in, great. If we can't, can't. What do you
So,
think?
Well, we had both discussions. I was a proponent to diminish their funding before last year, so, you know, whatever we can agree to. I think that, we have an obligation to them, but, you know, if the money's better spent somewhere else, then I think that's up to us.
I agree. Let's just see how it fits into the budget. Maybe it's not 225,000, maybe we can fund them a different number, depending on our projects.
so Janice, you want to lead us through the big projects that are in the 1,000
Sure.
fund?
So going from the top down, the first one we come to is under professional and technical services. It's the CISO engineering contract for the infrastructure project on Sunset Drive. And that's been budgeted at $79,900. We then have some technology put in here to enhance what we do with the streaming of the meetings and so forth. There's a template or a module that we can get on our website that would allow those streamed meetings, the videos and the recordings of the meetings to be placed directly on the website as opposed to going through YouTube. So that expense is the implementation fee to do that is $1,050, and then it would be an annual fee every year of about $5,300.
Janice, I'm not seeing where these things are. I'm sorry.
That's okay. So it's under line 38 here, where you see CP Media.
Got it. All right.
This
Okay.
archive social and social 330 are ongoing expenses that we already have. This media item here is probably a little bit underfunded because a new number that's come back is 5,300 for ongoing maintenance of those videos with unlimited storage. So that would allow all of the zoning meetings to be put on, all of the board of trustee meetings to be put on directly onto the website as opposed, like I said, going through YouTube.
Is there a reason, I've not had this discussion before, is there a reason we don't want it on YouTube versus our own website?
So the advantages are that when an individual in the public would go onto our website and look at the meetings, it has the agendas listed, it has the minutes listed, it would also have the video listed. So it's all in one spot. Now they have to go to another link, go outside our website, go to the YouTube and view it there. Not that it's impossible to do, but it's just an enhancement for the public to be able to reach those videos. It also has unlimited storage, and so all of your meetings and so forth would be in one place. If it's on YouTube, obviously it's there, you know, amongst all of the other YouTube videos.
Is that a one-time cost or is that annual?
There's a one-time fee of $1,050, and then there's an ongoing maintenance cost of $5,300. So I have in here $3,100. That was the quote that we had gotten. But if you look down just a couple lines where it says website maintenance at $7,500, that's dropped to $42. So we're saving about $33 there, added up to the other CP Media, it's about the same.
Okay.
So that's some technology. We also had looked into being able to take credit cards directly through our website. That cost is, the implementation fee is $3,000, and then there's another ongoing annual fee of $1,500. So in our opinion, given the choice between the two of taking the videos or being able to take credit cards online, it's been suggested that we would do the videos, because the credit cards, we don't have that many credit cards that it's worth the money, in our opinion, to put that money toward taking credit cards. Everything we're doing right now is over the phone, in person, and so forth. Seems to be working well. To have it directly on the website, I'm not sure the benefit outweighs the cost. But having the videos on the website would certainly be easy access for the public to reach them. So technology here would be total probably about $4,500. Moving down the list then of things that are added in here for the capital accounts. We have an ID maker here at $3,800. That is for Sumac makes IDs, government IDs for the fire department, police department, so that they have something to show when they go on a scene or if they're asked for it at a business. The ID maker we have is probably 10 to 12 years old. Usually breaks down when we have somebody that needs a new ID or something. So this updated equipment is $3,800.
Janice, can you go up from there, back up to blighted properties, line 47?
Yes.
So last year we spent 5,000 and we're looking at spending 50,000 this year.
Mhm.
Yeah, we didn't do any demolitions.
Okay,
With the staff working on the city plan would be, some demolitions. I believe we got at least 2.
okay,
That's the typical amount. That's the reason why we spent 5.
okay. Because last year's appropriation was 36,000 and now we're gonna bump it to 50. So I'm just curious.
Well, some years we
Well-
spend over 50, 60. It's up, it's
That's
a case
reasonable.
by case, it's kind of hard to predict.
Alright.
Like we might have, when we were aggressive, we got rid of a lot of blighted properties, so there aren't as many right now. So we could maybe only use 10,000.
Do we collect that back when the properties?
Yes, it
So-
goes on their
Yeah.
property.
But it goes,
Okay.
it goes in the tax.
Right.
Plus,
Okay.
I think we probably did appropriate 50,000 last year in there, but we've moved money out of there to cover a senior snowplower, to cover another
Okay.
expense. So that's why it's looking at 36.
Okay.
That was the final appropriation in there.
So right below that is senior snowplow. And
Right.
last year we had a $22,000 appropriation and now we got 40,000.
Yeah, we didn't use any last year hardly. Well, I guess we did the 19,000, but we hardly
We
had
did.
snow compared to what we've been doing this year. We didn't have any in the fall of 19, I think. Yeah.
That's like a two, so you have a 2-season split though. You have
Right.
December and then you have January, February. Yeah,
So
they're in separate years, but it's the same winter.
So far, we've spent and encumbered 15,000 of that 40.
Okay.
So that leaves us 25,000 for the fall, November, December.
Okay. All right.
Let's see.
So we're part of that, we're appropriating next winter is the problem. For December, this year we got a little more.
We did include 30,000 here for activities and community events coming up. The Copley Bandstand, they have not given me a number that they're looking for as a contribution, nor has Heritage Day. But that's typically what we have done. I think Heritage Day has probably increased a little bit because of their late notice of businesses and getting donations from businesses and so forth, whether or not they'll be able to do that. So that's increased to 30. That can change
What
also.
line are you on?
Line 58. So I also did include some down here that we did not spend last year for the events that we've had in the past, movie night, Safety Town, Halloween, winter, CERT, and so forth.
That's all included in line 58?
No, there's 62
Oh, I see it. I
through
see it down
67.
below. Okay, yes.
So these are events that the township holds,
Mhm.
and the other events are community groups that hold them that we can donate money to.
All right.
Let's see, in the town hall, we have depot shingles. at $7,500. Mark has asked to have those replaced.
Yeah, I think the original shingles on that building are from when it was moved down there many moons ago. We've made several repairs on, so I'd like to really get those put on, protect that building.
That's like 42 years ago. Those are 42-year-old shingles?
Yeah, it was,
Unless somebody changed them between now and now, I don't know.
Yikes,
yeah, like 78 or
I don't
79.
recall Al doing it.
no.
Um, Continuing on, we have some training for the Community and Economic Development Department at 6,000. We did not obviously do much last year because of the COVID and so forth. We have iWork here at 5,100. Loudon, is that an update to the software?
It's just the annual fee, so they haven't raised it. We paid in November.
Yeah, so we must have paid it this year in January because there's already 5,100 spent. So we have 0 in dispatch in the general fund. That's shared by police and fire now. Security cameras here at the park. That's a Mark project.
That's in this, these packages, Mark Davis.
Yes.
Reason why I was looking for those is because of the incident we had this year with vehicle that managed to get into the park and destroyed the bridge, kicked in the building, took the police department to Kubota. We really don't have a lot of problems at the park, but this one that spurred me that maybe we should have something. out there.
There are no cameras at all there now?
Well, there are cameras there, but they're not, it's a very old antiquated system. Looking to do an upgrade. It would be more cameras, it would have more of a view, looking out, like to have a camera on the sign that you pull in. So that if anybody comes into that park, we can see what kind of vehicle it is, possibly a license plate off it. And we go out into south parking lot, there's a security camera there, looking south. There's 3 cameras in each one of the pavilions, and then there'd be another camera pointing out towards the playground. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 12 cameras. Looking to possibly install that.
A couple lines down then is one of a couple of the things that we talked about at the last capital meeting, and that's the senior playground, looking at 50,000 for that, and the tri-state trail at 100,000.
Where did those numbers come from, Janice?
The senior playground is an estimate that based on what Springfield Township did at their senior park and some costs that we've gotten about the equipment that they purchased. The tri-state trail was a shot in the dark.
Okay.
Okay,
And that's given no grants, correct?
right, that's
Okay.
money out the door. Then under capital, we have some of the other projects that we talked about, land acquisition, community center or pavilion type building at the park.
Are these listed in the order we discussed last meeting?
No, it's listed according to the accounts that they pertain to.
Okay.
Now, the community center for 50,000, that's different than the senior playground.
Yes, that's like a pavilion at the.
Okay.
And then we talked about doing an Eastern Gateway sign at 10,000. These amounts here, this 3,500 and 1,500 are to complete the town hall sign out front and the Western Gateway for landscaping, which we've already received a donation of $1,200 toward from the Cowboy Chamber.
Okay. So that's all the big changes. In addition to that, then you have the things that are down in the 2902.
2902.
Thanks.
Mhm.
No, no.
Which
And-
are Cleveland Massillon sidewalk,
Right, and
CIC, and middle school parking.
Can I just clarify one thing on the, before we move on to 1,000? The CISO engineering we have in there is 79. Just point of verification, that's for the first phase of that engineering. The total is about 100,000 for the engineering of additional fees, but being at the end of March and we're looking at the rest of the year, that phase A is something that we had talked about to really like at least get a lot of, good feel for what we're looking at there. So I just wanted to make you aware that that's not the whole engineering, but it's probably. Just wanted to make you aware of that. The proposal actually is for 180. But given that it's March, we don't think it's necessary. Just comfort.
So it's a total of 2.7 in the general fund, huh? 2.68?
Mhm.
And you're showing 1.7 coming in. When I look at last year's revenue status, we had 2.1 coming in. And that included some transfers that I'm not sure what those are.
those were old accounts that were transferred into the general fund. One was an old bond that had money left in it for whatever reason. Linda had gone to the court to get that transferred.
Okay.
176,000 was in those bonds. There was like a $2,300 from Lurka Sand and Gravel, an old bond that had been sitting in there.
And there was another advance in of 214.
That was 188,000 repayment of the advance from the fire department.
All right.
Probably another 17,000 from the reworks grant that we always advance money and then it gets reimbursed. So those are, the big one was the 188,000. The other ones are grants that are reimbursable grants. We advance out of the general fund and then repay it.
And we're not going to get any more money from the fire department this year.
We're hoping not.
Well,
Not on the, no,
wait,
not on the
didn't you have to go out
SCBA.
in the hallway again to answer the questions? We'll let you know when you come back.
Yeah, there was a baseball bat involved.
So,
That was repayment for the SCBA.
but it's completely repaid. We repaid in advance. Sorry. So your 1.76 is reconciles with the 2020 number pretty well. So it's pretty accurate.
So last year we received 213 or 2,134,000.
Right, but that includes those transfers and advances. Right?
Yeah.
So when I back those out, I get to 1.75 million. So. So unless we're going to deficit spend to the tune of $800,000, we need to do something. And I
You'll
would
get your
think,
chance there.
what's that?
You'll get your chance with that.
And I would think, first off, I think properly, a capital item should come out of the capital account, 2902. It should not be coming out of the general fund. That's why we set aside those funds. So I guess I would think you would take your favorite ones and move it down there to 2902.
Past the revenue you're talking about.
Right, so the 2902 is funded by our share of the JED money, right?
Right.
We do have a slight carryover of about 100 grand. So you figure you got 550 grand to spend.
Plus there's carryover in this account as well,
Well, if you're gonna spend your carryover,
correct? Just because, yeah, let's keep going. We'll have that discussion in a bit.
So in my mind, you got to take your capital items, which total a lot more than 550 grand, and figure out which 550 grand you want to do.
Do we want to start that discussion now, or do we want to go through the department heads first?
That's up to you.
Well, I think we have some time restraints, so what would you prefer to do?
Let's do the departments and then
Okay.
we'll come back.
Loudon, did you have anything else that pretty much covered you as well, right?
Yeah, yeah, so that's pretty much that.
Well, let's just talk about CISO. If we have to limit to 550 capital, it's 79,000 for CISO in our 550. It would be in mine. So if I go through all those lists, CISO, technology, cameras, pavilions, Panzer property, community center, senior playground, CIC, I go through all that, middle school parking lot, sidewalk.
I think we should go through everything and then we're coming back with a mix.
Well, but none of these items that are in here, Scott, are in the fire department. or
Police, I know that there might be questions with their budgets too.
I was just trying to get Loudon out of here.
Nice.
The only thing he has that he cares about is $79,000. But okay, sorry, Loudon, you're stuck.
I think we're on his calendar for this meeting.
All right.
The only other thing I see on your list, Loudon, is the watershed program coordinator.
Yeah, so we were approached by some kind of a watershed program coordinator, something that's actually just got an email from them that stormwater utility, real concrete program for Summit County, which is a few years out. We wouldn't have to fund it, but it's basically, they're receiving interest also from the city government. So we had joint interest. We would work with them. We budgeted $5,000. But then we basically have a resource to them to help coordinate with plans. They would assist filling the gaps in the DG plan to develop, plus work with projects on that. Just kind of daily liaison to the watershed area between the two communities of government and Copley, which is really good because everything's pretty much 75% of Copley flows south. So it'd be a good opportunity. They're still finalizing the details, but I think in our discussions with them, we didn't get it in the budget now. It may not completely happen, but it will be a, like I said, a resource. It's shared to some sort.
Okay.
I think it was coming out of the
2181, this zoning fund.
Yeah.
That's where all of the permit fees, all of the money we take in gets deposited into that account. We've allocated 50,000 for salaries in the department, but we do have additional money available. Okay, Mark, do you want to go next? And because you only have another couple as well.
I had 4 items on the wish list. One would be to replace a 19-year-old plow truck with a new truck. International 7400 would be about 150,000 out of road and bridge. We'll take care of our trucks for a few more years. We do have a couple of older 204s, 2004s, that we can wait for a couple of years to replace. But this one here, we're looking to do that for 150,000. It really comes out to 140 some change. So we just wanted to do 150 basically changes.
I can change that. At 160s.
I didn't have a capital plan at all. I couldn't find a capital plan for service, that's the one we did last year. So I have no idea what was on last year as far as what the scheduled replacement of these vehicles were. So
Well, look,
I can't do anything.
well, we didn't have any money to set aside from service into a capital account, so we did not set aside, but we still have the schedule of replacement.
You can keep going. Yeah, go on, Mark. We'll go over, then we're gonna talk about your budget and see what your total revenue total expenditures are.
We talked about the shingles, but I also want to do the full bar shingles. Of that same repairs and maintenance, the road and bridge, but that I can let go. That's the 15,750, 15,750.
For both roofs?
For full bar alone, depot 7,500. The reasoning for that is because we built a new building in 2015, at the new building. We replaced the shingles on the full bar, on the salt barn, last year. And we're gonna do the shingles on the depot. I thought, let's do all 4 buildings down there. That way we don't have to worry about shingles for many, many years. But the depot is the one that I want. We should restore, put the new shingles on that one because of the historic building. Full barn, we've been patching and slapping tar on, so it's not something that really is absolutely needed, but just something that I wanted to get on there to take care of it.
Yeah.
Security cameras at the park for 16,000. We have gone without cameras for a while, so, but after this last incident, I think we ought to have something done. So I'd really like to go forward with that. But that's another one that we can set aside if we need to. Park pole replacement and the LED upgrade at the park, this would be a NOPEC project for the most part. 34,000, 160 for that, would replace 10 deteriorated light poles and upgrade every light in the park to LED. So that project, we need to get poles replaced. But the upgrade to the LEDs, that would be covered under NOPEC. So that really would be a whole lot. We may have a couple thousand out of our general fund, but they're right there, 33, 34, 35 for the total project. So we need to do that. I'd like to do that.
So Mark,
That's all I have.
the $34,000 is poles and lights, but a
Poles and lights.
big
Yeah,
chunk would come back to us.
The poles themselves will be, for 10 poles, will be 8360, so we're looking at about 8,500. Then to switch out every light, I'm talking about ground lights at the signs, all the way into the pavilions, maintenance building, all parking lot lights, everything would be 25,800.
And that's NOPEC already, we had like a carryover from
Yeah, no fact.
last year.
Somewhere around 30,000.
Yeah.
I had the whole thing coming out of NOPEC. The whole I had the whole project coming out of NOPEC grant.
They probably won't do the poles, will they?
Poles needed before.
Right, but
Yeah.
NOPEC won't pay for that.
Yeah.
They will?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can't have a parking lot light that's on the ground.
Well, I understand that, but I didn't think, I thought it was just the heads
Sure.
themselves. I didn't think it was the poles.
They said they would.
Oh, Good.
Basically, if you will, a free. Somewhat, so those are the only projects that I have.
So Mark, I have 25,800 for that project.
That was how much it would cost to do the LED,
Just the lights.
switch over all of the lights to LED.
Okay, so how much are the,
The poles are 8360, 10 poles,
so the total is,
30, 34, 160, I think.
It's got shipping on there.
Okay.
So how are they doing the total revenue?
Something like that.
Expenses.
Short.
So are you short on your budget then, Mark?
it does eat into carryover.
I'm sorry,
It does eat into carryover.
by how much?
About 100,000.
And then how much is in his, do you have a capital improvements
No,
account? But you have carryover, which could be same thing as capital improvement.
It'd be like we bought the Herm mower last year out of that carryover. So it's kind of counting.
How much was your carryover?
230,000.
206,000.
Minus that. These.
All right.
He would still have a carryover.
The anticipated carryover with purchasing all of this is 133,000.
That's not much considering how much equipment they have.
So that's in 2031. Now, we also have to look at motor vehicle license tax, and 9,500 there, 88,000 here, and in 2231. These funds are absorbing all of the road project costs. These are the motor vehicle and motor license tax funds.
So they go on to
In
bring up
40.
the issue, and I talked this morning about that, my road projects are not going to be as much as I anticipated.
Oh, good.
So we're looking at probably 376 for the road projects. So we figured 435.
Yeah,
So
435.
we can use some of that money. You know, we can use those permissive Kathleen tax and the other license tax.
So what you're saying here is this spreadsheet says you're gonna carry over 133, but you project you're gonna carry over more. And what Jim is just saying is if you put a 2004 dump truck in the Sedgwick ditch and twist the frame on it, you're gonna replace a 2004 this year as well. And you have the funds to do that.
And so, and the other thing I'm noticing on, like on 2231, Janice,
But that's correct. What, you just said, no, you don't, but you have 133 over, but you think you're gonna have more than that.
Well, I'm gonna have more because I thought my road project was coming in. I didn't have the exact number in my head when we talked. But after looking at it, it's considerably less than what I thought it was gonna be. So I will probably have that because we figured 435 and I'm gonna have only about 400. So I got 35.
But so those road projects are all budgeted out of the ancillary funds, 2011, 2021, and 2231.
Mhm.
So the balances that are carried over in those funds will increase. The 133 will increase just because we always receive more money than we budget.
Okay.
But these other funds can also buy a truck, right?
And we have not, and are there carryovers in those other funds?
Yes, so 2231 is anticipated, it's spending 260,000 on road projects.
Hang on, we're having a seizure over here.
I'm having a seizure, yeah. I'm sorry. You know, first off, the amounts that are shown on this spreadsheet, for example, in 2031, you've got the estimated coming in at $1.4 million. Last year, just so we're clear, we only received $1.3 million. Right? So we're increasing it by $100,000 according to county. I don't know what that increase is from. Is that because of the change in the levy?
It's maybe the change in the valuation of the
Okay.
township.
Okay,
So property taxes have increased, so
Right.
property tax revenue should increase. That number is strictly from the county. It has nothing to do with me anticipating any more
Right.
money. It's just from the county certificate.
so it's reasonable to think that it's going to go up $100,000 this year is what I just heard.
That's what they are telling us, yes.
Okay, so our starting point in 2031, all right, we'll buy off on that.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So you're saying we normally receive more than what they estimate. Is that correct?
Yes, because we have other sources of income that I don't include as revenue.
Understood, yeah. Like grants and such.
Not grants so much, but, well, let's see. So we have all of the employee contributions for health insurance. That's never included in that revenue. We have, whenever you invoice somebody for snow plowing, or what the kind of income does service have? It's limited, but I think this year it was about 30,000.
Okay, that's close enough. All right.
So I'm looking at 2011, 2021, and 2031. Those are our funds, right?
2011, 2021, and 2231.
2231. Okay, so in 2031, we're showing a drop of 140 grand in carryover.
About 100. I see 230 this year. We're carrying over, and next year 133.
So about 100,
Well,
nearly 100,000, 97,000.
my report says 93. Goes from 230 to 93 on my
Oh,
report.
you know why? Because I just cut the 5-ton truck is 150,000 instead of
She's changed
160,000.
Yeah, and you changed the lights as well.
She did it live.
That was in the note.
Oh,
Okay, so we're carrying over, so we went from 230 to 133 carryover now, that's what you're talking, okay.
Yes.
So we lost 100 there. What about 2021?
Right, so last year we received 363,000 and the budget has 105. So we will receive more money. This is when you increase the license tax $5 and so on and so forth. So
I'm looking carryover to carryover, right? I'm saying they came in with a $1.63, $1.64, and we're gonna go out of this with 88. So
if
we're,
we, yeah,
so we spent another 80 grand out of the till this year. Just over and above the $5 increase in license tax. We ate into our carryover by 80 grand.
we did not include the $5 over and above license
In the
tax
current
in the
year.
revenue.
Yeah, for the revenue. for this
See,
year.
last year we
Okay.
received 363,000 and this year we're budgeting 105.
Why the difference there?
Because this is what's on the certificate. So in
Okay.
July of 2020, when we submitted the budget, we did it conservatively based on the previous year. And we submitted 105,000. So the certificate that I have has $105,000 on it. So you
Okay.
can't really budget more than what your certificate allows you to budget.
Even though the
Yeah.
certificate says 105, we're probably gonna
Absolutely.
get the 363 number or something close to
Right,
it or
and
more.
when we have final finances, we will amend the certificate. The new carryovers will come and we can amend the certificate as we collect the money throughout the year.
Based on that estimate, and based on your hypothesis, that we will carry over more than we carried over last year in this account.
In 2021.
I don't know that we'll carry over more than we did last year, but we should carry over similarly.
Okay, but there's still a $100,000 drop in 2031.
Yes.
But he's buying a dump truck with that, and he has no capital improvement account like the other two. Yeah,
So I guess, in my method of thinking, he should have a capital account. And the carryover should be in the capital account. And out of the current year operating account, he should make a contribution to the capital account, not be pulling from the capital. In other words, we know his carryover balance is short versus his equipment needs in the future. No question. And what we're doing is we're reducing the amount available for those future purchases. So we are just kicking the can down the road and saying, gosh, I hope nothing breaks. And we should be going the other way. We should be taking some money out of his operating account and stuffing it into the capital account. So not only are we dropping 100 grand here, I'm saying actually we should be increasing carryover in order to cover his shortfall.
I agree with that. However, today is one of those days that, so in my opinion, you should also have a capital account part. You should project on when you're gonna replace trucks. You already know that. So we keep dumping money into the capital improvements account until 2026, when you know you're gonna replace an 04 truck. By that time, you should have enough money saved up in the capital account to be able to use it. That's what you're saying, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so
You're saying there's more money in there, purchase can't be made until you reach that number?
you should have a plan. No, sometimes you can't do that.
Yeah.
And I get that.
I just want to make sure that's
Right.
clear. You're making me wait that long, or not making me wait that long, but.
If it was a perfect world in my eye,
If I could go a year ahead of time, if need be.
right, in my eye, in a perfect world, you wouldn't spend it until you had it. However, if you wrecked two older trucks today and had to do it, you're gonna have to take a loan on one of them. You have to get one on credit. I get that. But try and limit that, please.
Oh.
Yeah, don't wreck your trucks, is what he just said.
Because we like to, we want it because we need.
The Sedgwick ditch was a real truck, by the way, that I told for the service department, so that was but anyway, so in my eye here as well is you have a pseudo capital account, that's your carryover, and now is your time to use it. And you're not taking it on credit, you're buying out of your savings account, you're buying a truck. So I personally have no issue with that. But you're gonna have to start dumping into a capital account for the next truck.
And the problem is, we're making, and this is why we want a complete capital budget. Because I'm blind, Mark. We're saying we need this truck now. Well, what's 2022 hold? What's 2023's plans, 2024's plans? How much money am I gonna have to kick aside over the next 3 years to get the next truck, the next burn mower, the next whatever?
Right.
And I can't make this decision without that. I can't.
And I agree 100%. There should be a 5, 10, and 15-year plan for equipment replacement. My opinion. I mean, you're very good at keeping your trucks up, and within a year when you're going to replace them. I think the fire department and the police department are similar. Chief Meyer knows when his cruisers are going to go bad. What do you get out of a cruiser, Chief? 2, 3 years, 4 years? Okay, so he knows that number. Chief Bauer knows he needs to replace a squad every 6 or 7 years, whatever the number is.
Mark, this is less about you and managing the department. It's not about that at all. It's about what we give you to run your department. Is it adequate or isn't it? And I can't make that determination right
I think we have a schedule together, Mark. I mean,
Yeah.
We talked about one last year.
He did, but Janice is right. There wasn't enough money to fund what was needed to be funded. And that's why I'm causing a stir now, because there wasn't enough money last year, and now we're perpetuating it. So I would just as soon
With all that,
tackle this beast today rather than kick the can down the road.
with all that being said, I don't have any issue with replacing your 19-year-old truck this year. Because you do have a capital account, you just haven't called it the capital accounts. You're not taking a loan on it, you're within your revenue, even though you've carried over revenue for several years to get this point. So I've got no issue with it. Does anybody else have any issue with what Mr. Mitchell's proposing? Put it out.
As I said, you can't make the determination on whether or not you can afford this truck now until you see what the future holds.
However, this has to be done by the end of the month. Can we get that done in time?
I don't know.
Can you? Jim is asking about, can we get this plan done and see what it's going to look in 5 and 10 years in enough time to approve your budget for the end of this month?
you can take the truck out of the budget and then make assessments as the year goes on and then decide if you can buy it later on.
That would be the more conservative approach.
That's not a bad idea either.
I mean, the stuff that,
Put the ducks in a row and-
It's not something you need to buy next week, right? Right?
No. The reason why I bring it up now is because, it takes time to get the truck
Right.
gas in, and that's go build. That's what it builds. It usually takes 6 to 8 months. We're looking to get rid of it for next season. Yeah, we can.
I feel more comfortable
That's fine.
pushing the truck to the sidelines. The shingles for the 2 buildings total $30,000. I'm fine with that. And certainly the lighting that's covered by NOPEC, I'm fine with. I'm struggling on the capital items because I'm half blind. And again, Mark, I want to say it again. You do an excellent job running your department. Every time I look at the equipment, I'm amazed at how old it is because it looks great. All right. But, I got to know if we're adequately funding you or not.
There's gonna be another 100,000 in that one account based on the
All right.
appropriation.
Okay.
It's gonna be what?
The short appropriation of 105, there's gonna be another 100,000 coming. We don't know.
We can't budget by it. So knowing that, I think what we're hearing up here is we've got no issue with what you're proposing. We're not going to put it in the budget until we know we have it and we see your long-term plan. Is that all right? All right. Thank you.
Are you good with the other 3 projects that he's proposing?
I've got no issue with any of them. You want to talk with all of them?
I'm good with the other 3,
No,
Scott.
good, we can.
Yeah, no, I'm
We're not
done.
voting on it today, we'll
No.
vote tomorrow.
Okay.
So you can.
So sounds like we're all good with all your proposals.
Okay. Well, pick your poison. Which would you rather do?
Your pick.
Let's do police, only because they have quite a few items.
It's a book.
Looks like one of their proposals is to plant trees.
If you look in there, there's actually two sections. First section is sort of capital requests with the backstory, the information on those. We don't have to go through all that now, but there just so you can see some of the reasons why, some of the things we need and how pricing is affected, that sort of thing. And then the back is a separate section that has to deal with the current police facility. Because there was some discussion about long-range plans as to when we might embark on that facility project. And I know a couple of weeks ago, one of the trustees suggested that we talk about that at that meeting, but we didn't. So at the top of the packet, as you get in there, there's an index listing. You don't have to look at the rest right now. The index listing of 14 items that I have there. I could just run through them kind of quickly. If you have any questions, you can stop me. A lot of these are things you've seen before. And normally, at the beginning of every year, when I do my capital thing, I usually present a lot of capital items, but I don't always end up purchasing those things. Sometimes that's kind of like a preliminary for the following year. Maybe that's something I'm presenting. Maybe a push goes off. It's not unusual for me to present these and not end up buying them for 2 or 3 years later. But the first item are ballistic shields, and I'm looking at possibly getting 2 ballistic shields. The ballistic shields are a shield that our officers can carry for extra ballistic protection when they're going into high-risk situations such as the hotels. Everybody has to look their own ballistic vest that we purchase for them and required to wear. The ballistic shield is a portable shield, also known as a body bunker. The ones we have are probably 15 years old. I don't know that they go out of date, although manufacturers suggest you replace those. But the technology is increasing. If I can, I might buy 2 of those, a little better technology, a little lighter weight, possibly even a higher threat level protection. So 2 of those shields are $3,000 a piece and $6,000. The next item are ballistic vests. Those are the personal vests that the officers wear. Normally, we have to replace so many of those a year because the Kevlar that the vests are manufactured by, it was manufactured by DuPont. DuPont recommends replacing those every 5 years because they say that they degrade under use, heat, sweat, that sort of thing. So they're only saying that you should keep this for 5 years, something that needs to be replaced because the liability associated with that. I don't know how many we're going to need this year, but I put down 10, which is usually worst case scenario. That's usually what I'm saying. And each one is about $1,000. And that's not something we buy all at once. It's something we buy through the year when an officer's vest year's expiration, year's that 5-year date, then we would allow them to replace it.
And that ballistic vest is budgeted in the capital account because it's,
I don't have to listen to those.
yeah, it's part of the list that was included when we established that fund.
Item number 3 is a drug incinerator. As you know, during the course of the year, we seize and confiscate and come into custody of a tremendous amount of narcotics that we have to hold as evidence in criminal cases. Once the case is fully disposed, the court will give us an order to destroy them. So normally that stays in our property room until we get enough, and we have to find a location to incinerate them. The problem is that things are changing. I think some of it has to do with the increase in fentanyl, that these facilities that have destroyed this for us for free in the past are not as willing to help us. For example, we could take this down to Timken Steel and they can put it in the incinerator down there. I have a good friend who was head of security at Timken Steel who recently retired. He says, yeah, I can get you in there. And he made a phone call to who's ever down there now. And the guy said, sure, we'll put you on the list. I'm about around July. So that just kind of gives you an idea that they are, the ability to incinerate drugs is drying up. People aren't doing it as much. I think some of it's because the unions and some of these plants are saying, hey, it could be burning fentanyl. So, you know, I'm not so sure it does. So
That's not offered through the sheriff or anything.
no. Now, what happens is, you know, we have a drug drop box in our police station parking lot, as do most of the agencies in Summit County. And that is covered under the grant for the Summit County Health Department. It's a whole separate thing. People bring that in, and that stuff goes to a drug incinerator. I believe out of Grafton. When I was doing research on this, I did talk to Mike Bolus from the EPA, because as we checked this out, we found that legally we could put this stuff in a burn barrel and burn it. EPA does not recommend that because it says it doesn't totally destroy it. It also could release toxic substances into the air. The
Yeah,
biggest concern is our officers who have to stay there and observe this, have to burn it.
yeah, it's definitely a risk.
So the drug incinerator, this one we looked at $7,000, which actually is a dual chamber incinerator. There's paperwork in there that you can look at. It supposedly keeps all that inside, contains it. There's no risk to our officers. And so Mike Bowles did pass some information on to me that I've included in there, that we could do some further research on. This is something you may want to embark on, that we can destroy these drugs on a quicker basis, taking up a lot of room in our property, which also goes back to our facilities that we talked about. One of the things with the police facilities, and adequate room, store all the seized property, all the property we hold on to. So this is something, if we were to do this, that maybe we could also recoup some of the costs by incinerating this for other agencies and charging them a fee. I don't know that I want to get into incinerating. That's always something possibly we could do. So the cost of that is $7,000. It would appear as if that incinerator would be safe for our officers, something we can go out and burn 100 pounds at a time. Mike Wallace said it was a good idea. He did indicate that from the people he talked to, you know, the EPA is so large, he didn't have immediate answers. He talked to his associates there, who said, oh, we could probably get you in out in Grafton. Yeah, we've got to hire 2 officers that have to take this.
Yeah,
One can't do it.
Lorraine
You gotta go all the way
County,
to
yeah.
Grafton, burn, verify the stuff is burned.
it's just the volume, it makes it a way of saving money on the convenience of officers traveling.
So that's an item that I would like to consider. The next item is telephone forensics. As you know, the evidence that we get in many criminal cases now involves cell phones. Cell phones, everybody seizes them, and then they got to go for telephone forensics at times, and it ties things up. Also, if you have a victim or a witness who has a phone with something on it, they're not going to relinquish the phone to us to send to BCI, where it's going to get in the shuffle and be there for months at a time. So the telephone forensics thing, the actual price is about twice this. It would cost us about $2,845. But I didn't really apply for a grant, fill out a one-page grant application, so to speak. Check with you before I actually seek a grant. But it's something through the manufacturer that they have somebody, a company somewhere that will defray the cost. And so I guess we're in line. If we were to do this, it would cost us $2,845. So we wouldn't benefit from the grant, so to speak. It's a portable device. So for example, if the officers were to go to somebody's home tonight who their child received a text message or something, a baby said that there's going to be an attack at the school, it's one of the popular ones, or they're being bullied by somebody, or there's something else in there, if they would allow us on the spot, our detectives to hook their phone up, pull that information out, give them their phone back, and then we have a permanent record of that information. Telephone's forensic device, so it could be very beneficial to us. The next item I put is a police trailer. Don't have any idea how much it costs. Kind of a worst case scenario, $10,000. It's not something we absolutely need, but it's something we consider getting. What we would use it for is dual purpose. First of all, the trailer would be used to take all the stuff that we need to take down to the range on our range days for range qualification and range practice. With all the targets, all the material that they can take down there and bring back. But secondly, that thing can also be put into a kind of like a mobile command post that you use in all the special events, or if you have large incidents somewhere. The one thing that I always go back to is when we did the animal farm, little farms, we were down there all day long, and we could use someplace to operate out of, have an office to do work on. The next item isn't really capital, but I put it in there after Genesis book. You can do a promotional exam for a lieutenant, and then also for sergeant. Kind of pick a figure of $23,000. I don't think it's going to cost that much. That could also, we believe, cover for hiring some new part-time officers. So it's all part of that testing process. The next item are radar units for the cruisers. Every cruiser has a radar unit in them. We have 2 of them now that have to be replaced, each one at about $2,500, $5,000 price tag. During the course of this year, we can have another 1 or 2 go out for all 1 at different times. You never know, but right now there are 2 that should be replaced. The next item is the radar trailer. That's, as you know, we have the radar trailer that we used out in the community. It was shared with Bath Township, that was crashed. And we got a large insurance settlement on that. We talked about maybe replacing that. We are using signs, marks people put in neighborhoods a little bit harder. The trailer's a little more mobile. If we were to decide to replace that, if we didn't have to do it half on this, I don't know that they will. I'm guessing it's no more than $7,000. Right, a bit less.
When we discussed the signs though, I thought we said we're more effective, no?
I'm sorry.
Signs, I know you're getting data.
Well, the radar trailer also,
It
with
gives you
something
data.
running, it got the data, so we can do the vehicle counts.
All right.
see the speeds.
I know there's a different system, but effectiveness for people, I don't know, it comes and goes. There's now everybody's doing the signs. I don't know how effective they are.
So Chief
You know what I
Meyer,
mean?
the vehicle counts don't happen on the signs, right?
It's simply a warning.
Okay,
Yeah, we don't have
That's the
data
difference.
collection. We got basic
all right, the data collection is very, very
No
useful.
data collection.
The signs are very effective. We're happy to do that. Before that, we were just putting out a warning sign, didn't have a visual display. Now, his folks can put that out. The only problem is it takes a little long. We get complaints in an area sometimes. His guys have to actually go out, find a location where the sign can go, a pole. They
Right.
have to do utility source, that put the pole in. So it's a little bit more.
Yeah. Okay. No, I mean, we've done trailer
Chief
ever
Meyer,
since I've been here.
on the radar trailer, does it track when the speeds the cars are traveling, what time of the day and what days of the week?
When it's working properly, yes.
Yeah, it
Ours
checks
did.
all of it.
Okay.
Times a day, speeds of vehicles, average speed, numbers, volume, vehicle counts. So if somebody said there's a problem in their neighborhood, you put that out there,
You could
you
pinpoint.
might find out the problem's nowhere near what they're saying it is, which helps you say, yeah, we can put patrol, we can't patrol their own law.
Yeah.
You know, everybody, they have their own observation. And
Yeah.
a couple cars go by a day, bothers them.
It's nothing like evidence. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
The next item are the Star Chase system. As you know, we put the Star Chase system in several of our cruisers. I would like to put those in 3 more cruisers. So the total price would be $19,848 to put 3 more systems in. We haven't actually used it, but I know it's going to work. You know, we had an incident the other night where we were real close to using that, and that would be very beneficial.
Why didn't it work?
What's that?
Why didn't it work that time?
The only reason why it didn't work is the officer did a pretty good job of approaching the vehicle, preparing to deploy a projectile. And as he was doing so, he looked ahead and saw there's another car just in front of the violator. So he backed off to let the violator get around him. Reapproached and was going to deploy again, and another car was in front. So he backed off and let him get around. There was nobody ahead of him that he was going to go. He's got to get kind of close to then deploy it. As he started to get close, the guy took evasive action from the high-speed lane over to the exit. That's the only reason why. If he would have made it on the ridge, let's say turn to go in Akron, and do a slower speed, he could have got behind him, waited right there in the city streets, and just let him go. That would be very beneficial. for everybody. And actually, I got Cleveland out as called that wants us to demonstrate the system. So the company said, would you? And I said, yeah, we would. And I actually got a call from a guy I know up there, so we're gonna do it for demonstrate. They're gonna send us some training projectiles and we'll show them. The next item down is the taser replacement. This is something we are going to have to know if anything else about this. I think she's got some figures. Initially, we wanted to do this, it was going to be less. We've run into a problem, and that paperwork is in there for you. But each officer is assigned their own taser, and we have 3 different series of tasers, all purchased at different times. And tasers no longer supporting most of those, which means we can't get them repaired if something happens to them. So I'd just like to buy 35 new tasers, all the newer generation, and it comes on a 5-year contract where the total price is $89,670. but we would make an annual payment of $17,934 per year. So we wouldn't have to put that entire amount on.
Well, so when we were looking at that, this is the capital account for police, and it is, tasers are listed on the equipment that you can purchase. I put 90,000 in here just because I didn't know if this, Chief and I were talking, is it a lease payment and are we paying interest on that? And so it would leave it up to you whether you want to lease it and make 5-year payments or if you want to buy them all at once.
Are there interest involved? Is there interest involved?
That's the thing for, we don't know.
We'd have to find out.
We would need. Why 35?
Well, we have, that gives us, we usually have around 30 sworn officers, sometimes, hopefully maybe pick a couple more per time. But then also you've got the spare units, if something happens, there's damage has to go back. Whatever the case.
I know you got 30 folks there.
And the next one down is thermal vision. We currently lease night vision equipment through the Navy. This is thermal vision, it's night vision with the thermal component to it as well. Makes it more effective. As you know, we're doing searches in the evening hours, looking either for suspects or looking for walkaways from nursing homes. Bruce knows the fire department has their own system, but this would be for the officers, $2,599 per unit, not to exceed cost. It probably wouldn't cost them much. Not something we actually have to have, but would like to think about purchasing that. The next item are laptops. We're going to need at least 3 of these because normally we replace about 3 laptops per year. And these are laptops are used in the police cruisers. It's an MDT, which is a mobile data terminal. They are the tough ruggedized laptops. It comes with the keyboard and the mounting to go in the cruisers. We'll have to probably replace 3 this year as they age out or as we experience problems. Something like this, we might not have to replace the 3, but might have to replace 4. So generally, we try to rotate about 2 or 3 a year.
Again, that's another capital item.
The next item I just have is a surveillance camera project, and that's something I've spoken to you in the past about. We have the 3 surveillance cameras in Montrose that we put in probably 12 years ago. Obviously, 12-year-old technology is not the optimum technology. We would like to replace that with current technology. The system that we have looked at is a Motorola Vigilon system that is artificial intelligence cameras that are more efficient. We'd like to put some more cameras in Montrose, but I've already spoken to the school system, as I think you will recall from my discussion with you. The school system would like to put cameras in. So if we shared the backbone of the system and we could have our cameras on the same system, then of course we would also have access to the school's cameras and the situation there. I think there'd probably be some cost savings there. We have spoken to the representatives, we have been working closely, everything. I don't know how much it would cost us. I'm thinking it's $150,000 for Copley. I put that down for Copley alone. It's way more than what we're doing. But I still wanted to put something in there, worst case scenario, because we're still working on that. I was talking to Bath and Fairlawn as well, because if we could get more cameras in Montrose, Bath and Fairlawn would assume some of those cameras. Then we would cover all of Montrose together, be on the same system, have the school on the same system, share the costs. And so that is still in its conceptual stages. But it could come together this year because it may work fast because I've had some discussion with Motorola how they want to do a joint project with schools and community in this area. So there may be some significant costs. So I put $150,000. From anywhere near that, just putting that down.
That is not included anywhere in the budget. I did not put any of that in, just because it's so unknown. And
It's on the IFCON.
So Mark suggested $16,000 of cameras at the park. And, you know, it seems to me that maybe this should be the same camera system.
We could probably do the same thing with.
You would want it, yeah, everything we have tied into one.
Right.
They're working on figures.
Fairlawn and Bath could do the same thing in their parks.
Right.
Like you mentioned Montrose too. You have mentioned parks and Montrose for everybody. gives them
Again,
more
I don't
options too.
understand this, we would need, because one of the things when I spoke to Motorola about this last year, when we first started talking about this, is you have certain businesses in the community that want a camera. He would go and talk to some of the businesses, hopefully get them to buy it, that we would tie into our system. We have control of it. So, I mean, we might want to put a couple more monitors, but there could be a couple of businesses.
I'm sure it's a big priority for a lot of businesses.
I'll take one.
Yeah,
Hell, yeah.
he pays double.
I'll pay my.
That is an ambitious project with a lot of moving parts to it. It's something I was working on last year. Now it's starting to get legs. Quickly get some information from Motorola.
So what, how do we move forward with that? I mean, is this something that we don't approve now and we amend the appropriations later? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, as it comes on and you do or don't do some of these projects, you have money that you can move around. So I would say,
I'm a big supporter in that as well as the cameras at the park. I think they should be one integrated system.
And one of the things,
So is Motorola kind of carrying the ball here?
they're working on it for us. We
Right.
give them the general concept. They see who the potential.
And they're looking at all the buyers. Who's got the money?
They're working on what this is gonna cost, plus
So-
what they would like to do on their end to create a joint school community project.
so wouldn't this be a topic that we would bring up at that joint safety meeting that we have once a
Absolutely.
quarter that does absolutely nothing?
Exactly, but hopefully we would have more.
I mean, really? It's a reporting meeting. It doesn't,
Did you want quoted in the West Side Leader on that?
please.
Yeah,
I think I've said it to a number of people in other communities as well. Couldn't we like accomplish something in those?
Don't get me
meetings?
started on that. No.
Yeah.
Go ahead, I'm.
So, and beyond the park, I'm just thinking about Copley's needs, beyond the park and the schools. You know, the town hall, the police station, it seems like there should be a couple, maybe the circle.
Machos was
But
a big.
one of the things too with the system is that it can be tied into 911. So if somebody was in Montrose without 911 and said, this just happened, the cameras can be tied into that and start looking at that area.
So they GPS it.
And yes, follow it, they can follow.
Okay.
It's a real, it's artificial.
So
intelligence. So it's pretty good system. So we'll see what they say, but I'm throwing this out because if the availability came to do it this year, if they came through with the pricing, then I think it's something we want to do right away. I don't think
So I'd like to take that $16,000 out of Mark's budget and have him not spend it because he doesn't have a carryover anyway to spend.
It's in the general.
And stick it to Chief Meyer.
That was coming out.
No offense, Chief.
it wasn't coming out of Mark's, right? It's general
Just
fund?
general
Coming out of
fund.
your budget.
Well, in that case, I really want to put it to Chief Meyer.
Yeah. Hey, that's the way things are done. That's all. That's just the way things are done.
Try to get the whole bar shingles at general fund because it's a township building, but
Yeah.
I can do that through road funds too.
Thank you, sir.
Chief, you
Well,
mentioned,
Worth a try.
back in January, one of our meetings, January, that you wanted to replace some of the dash cams.
That's not in here.
that is not in here because that's the table. That's something I want to do now.
Well, we tabled it for this
Yeah.
meeting.
Oh,
It's here, dash cameras and
but I
machinery.
mean, I didn't put it, here's a new item. That's-
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
it's a table. We have the quote ready to go. And I think
So it is in your budget, it's not on this list here.
right.
this is more looking ahead. Back.
You can cover your trail however you want. That's all right. Just say it's just, you've got it on here and we'll take it up there over there.
The last item here are the unmarked vehicles. Possibly like to get up to 2 unmarked vehicles this year. Some of the unmarked vehicles we need to actually go basically 150,000 miles. So that again is something we can do as we go. I'd like to mention it because we may want to do it sometime.
And that is also out of the capital fund.
So I would entertain any questions you have, and again, there is some the supporting documents in here that explains things.
So in the capital fund, we had $39,000 for tasers, and now you're saying 90 grand.
Right, but if we do the 5-year contract, we're looking at 18,000.
Okay.
Each year for 5 years.
And the other thing that was in that capital budget, you had riot gear, which I assume is the ballistic shields.
Yeah, we've acquired a lot of that.
Okay.
already. Bits and pieces, not a long time.
And you had a dozen pieces in there, and you're replacing 2 here.
Sorry.
You had a dozen pieces in the capital plan, but we're only
Yeah,
replacing.
we put that in there, that was.
We did
long
that
time
last
ago.
year,
That
yeah.
was last year when we were doing
Yes.
the capital,
I think
creating
we-
that capital fund,
I think we bought it last
so we
year.
bought stuff.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if we're going to need any more this year. I don't think so. But, you know, if we do, that's, those are just incremental purchases.
Okay.
So that's kind of where I'd like to go. And again, I always caution you, something could happen probably 2 years, for something to be in place. Try to look ahead as best as I can. Try to figure out what we might.
Janice, is the unmarked vehicles in the budget then?
It is under the capital account.
Perfect. It's, and then the tasers, is that under the capital account too?
Yes, in the capital account are the ballistic vests for 10,000,
number is the capital account?
4907
4907?
or 6. It's either 4, 5, 6, or 7.
5.
And if you want, we have, I think,
4905.
Yeah, so it's lines 688, 689, and 690. So again, that taser replacement can come down to 18,000 also. So
Well, that'd be lucrative if we knew there was interest on it. You plan on finding out in an email on
yeah,
it?
I'm having a little trouble because our account person was promoted and we have a new account person. Having trouble getting-
Just personally, if it was 2% or less, or if it was free, absolutely.
Yeah.
If it's 2% or less, I'd probably do that as well.
And then the items that are not in 4905, Janice, are they up in,
2081. So just starting from the top of 2081, you have all of the salaries and benefits. The first real thing comes at professional and technical services, the promotions, 23,000. Then under payment to another political subdivision, you have half of the dispatch expense, a fourth of the IT expense, and the jail expense.
Okay.
And then we move down to small tools and minor equipment. That has a majority of it. The ballistic shields, the drug incinerator, radar dash mount, star chase, and thermal vision. The forensics then is under small tools and minor equipment technology. And the police trailer, radar trailer is under machinery, equipment, and furniture, and the dash cameras under that technology.
Yeah.
So then there's a line here in pink, red, capital projects fund, and that is the current contribution to the capital projects fund. So last year we put in 619,000. This year, the 1/6 of the previous year's expenses are 792,000. So even with putting that in, yes, he is spending more than estimated in taxes from the county.
But he's
He still
spending
has-
less than what that difference is compared to the capital improvements.
so the carryover is dropping by 600,000, almost $700,000, but it's all going into capital improvement.
Right,
And that's after accounting for all these things.
yes.
And the other thing I noticed is the 2020 actual, the estimate for county of 4.3 million. Last year, they got 4.7 million.
Is that back to the same thing where they always estimate low and we get more?
Is the 4.7 million from the certificate? Or is that,
It's from the fiscal office.
that's what we earned? So that would include other income, like reimbursement for drug, for the Summit County Drug Bureau. It's
Yes.
Task force.
any money that the police gets would go on top of property taxes.
Right. You're right. It includes intergovernmental receipts, gifts and donations, other state receipts. It includes it all. But I guess what I'm saying is there's another 400,000 that's in there that we're not accounting for. And he's still covered on
Yes.
everything he's asking.
Correct,
Because we're gonna get that at the 400,000.
correct.
It's just that it's not in. Okay.
And then we have law enforcement trust fund money, as you know, connected with some of the cases you've had this year. There might be some money coming there as those cases. I never like to count on that money.
Yeah.
Normally I like to go to that sometimes. Expenditure during the year, and say, it's something outside the budget, it's unforeseen, if we have money, we can sometimes.
So for instance, this year you've gotten 3 or 4 checks reimbursing for drug task force. You got 63,000 most recently for Hassler.
Right.
So there's money that comes in that you just can't budget it
Actually,
because you
2
don't know
funds.
for sure.
One's drug law enforcement fund, which is fine money coming from courts and associated drug cases. The other one's law enforcement trust, which are the forfeitures that come out of our participation in
Yeah.
drug task forces and anything that's seized and awarded to us for the forfeiture. of the court.
So the drug law enforcement fund has 16,000 available in it currently, and the law enforcement trust has another 8,800. 8,800. But we don't budget anything and we don't anticipate receiving any more.
And then they have their, I think Janice has them.
Oh, yeah.
Images you want to look at the police station. real quick.
Yeah. But there's no nice cost summary like you did on,
I don't have lots.
Okay.
I know Mark. We're at that point where we get Mark chime in.
I haven't gotten any estimates for
Right,
doing any.
but just to give you an idea, so I mean, I think you
Yeah.
could all kind of conceptualize how much it is. To give you an idea, when we had this discussion a couple of weeks ago about maybe longer term for a police facility, this is kind of what I put together real quick. There's our building from the outside, obviously, we can go in. There's the front door. If you look down the bottom edge,
look at
all the
this.
rust in front of the doors. Okay, that's not the only door, but that's the front door. You can go next door. There's the door, same thing. That's the one that leads to the lobby. There's 2 separate doors there. One leads to the lobby, same thing, west. There's, that is my window. It may be a little bit hard to see the crack up through that glass. Right there, a diagonal crack that cannot open that window. Mark's folks have looked at that and said, you just need the window. You can't even replace that. It's gonna fall.
It's the whole thing.
There's my other window that Mark's folks taped, and said, don't even,
Are people shooting at you through the windows or what?
what?
Are they shooting
That's
BB
what-
guns at you? How
What do
do
you need, a ballistic
Are you hitting
shield
your head
in
into the
front of the
window?
window?
Yeah, I mean, somebody-
What, how many other windows are broken in the building? Just yours? Just your office?
I think there might be 2 others.
Yeah, plus there's ones where their frames are all rotted out, and they're screwed them shut.
Just want to make sure what ain't targeting going on here.
No, I think, one thing is, I think the police have been in this building for about 25 years. Sound about right? Us,
28.
Yeah, it's more than that.
95 or something.
28 years.
Like that.
And of course, it was a manufacturing facility before that, so I don't know how old the building is. But one of the problems is that every time something's come up, tell Mark, sometimes the general consensus between the board and everybody's been, let's hold off, let's don't put any money in because we need to go to the new building. So we're at the point where, and let's just go through, I don't want to delete.
How many total windows are there?
I don't know. We can figure that out.
I
I
got-
want you to get an idea what we're looking at. Like, here's another one. That's a window that you cannot clean. See how foggy it is?
Yeah.
That's not, There's another one. It's just,
That's your
Hey.
security.
you keep going. There's, that's right off the parking lot. You can see the bottom window sills all rattled.
It's the old dispatch.
Right there. That's the window in the window to work.
Before we go too far with this, the building is salvageable. It's a nice building. It might be replaced with a new building, but
Right.
somebody's gonna want to purchase this building.
Right.
I would, I
If that's what you want to do. I'm just going back.
I would highly doubt the building's gonna get dozed over. Some developer might do that in the future.
So
Put windows and doors on it. It's easy. You're not talking about 15 grand.
just come up with a dollar amount is what you need.
So I'm clear, it's a cinder block and brick building.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a brick, basically it's a brick
I
building.
think poured concrete.
It's,
wow.
it's,
Individual block.
The walls,
Really?
floors,
there's a lot
walls.
of forward walls, but most of it's split face blocked out.
Well, let's just go through this here.
So it's a
There's
That
that
door,
door.
that door.
This door-
Put it out on the bottom.
That door should have been replaced, and Mark's guys have just put it back together. They've had several thousand. for that door.
Yes, yeah.
You're gonna burn it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's arson evidence?
You just see the doors, there's just a lot of maintenance that needs to be done. There's another window. There's another window. That's the detective bureau window. That shows, that's outside the Sally porch. You can see the driveway apron has sunk. You can see
Yeah.
that line there where there's open space. That's just sinking away. That's carpet that needs to be replaced in the area that the officers, but you can't really see it. There's big wrinkles and that in there, which it really should be. Okay. Leaks, it's a flat, basically a flat roof, I believe, or nearly a flat roof.
There's.
A lot of leaks, we go through this every year, that's in the conference room. Now, this is kind of interesting, that's in the detective bureau, grass grows up out of that ceiling every summer. So we could, if we don't replace the building, can I get a weed whacker to clean up the grass inside? He says you can feel the draft there, that's another leak, you can keep going. There's a ceiling tile that's never been replaced because it always leaks, but they do get it temporarily repaired and it starts over. Same room. And then that's our records room, as you know, the overcrowding because we put the records in. That's our garage. The garage is cleaned up. Right now, all of that stuff here was seized in one case. We don't even know who owns it. We can't figure out who owns it. We'll have to auction it, which is all this, toolboxes, equipment, all this going all the way back here. Those are toolbox. That whole thing came out of a stolen trailer that we recovered at the place for Fairbridge Inn and Suites. And we were able to identify who owned the trailer. We had to get the trailer back to them. That's the tools and stuff. But if we can ever figure out who owns them,
So someone stole their trailer and then stole that stuff and put
so
it
that
in.
stuff separate. That didn't come with the trailer.
Yeah.
So right now you got to hold it. Okay, it's in hold. But I mean, there's just another view of the same thing. You can also see the records up there. There's a car that's been seized that's back in there that maybe we'll get on a forfeiture. That's our computer room, and everybody knows it's just been that. You know, I think there's more computerization to the police department since the building was originally remodeled into a police department. And that just gives you an idea. That's the computer room, and I think most of the computers, Nick's not here, I think most of the computers for the township are in there. Servers and stuff, just another view. Could use some more room, keep going. And that's the workstation for the IT guys when they're in our, that used to be the permanent office, but now they move around. That's the workstation. Then the jail, which is actually in pretty good shape.
You might
Visitors
wanna
get the best
Work
treatment.
in the jail.
Yeah. Except that's the restaurant. If you go back, if you get to go back, the jails don't have their own bathroom. So if you get somebody and they say, I gotta use the bathroom, you gotta take them out, let them go in there and take them back. We don't keep people very long, but they could be in there for a couple hours while we're doing the paperwork. You can also see there's a yellow line there. That's where we get people that have been picked up on driving under the influence. We make them walk in line in the field, then when you bring them back, you do it again on video. And that line extends from the jail up through the hallway into that room on the right, which is where the photograph fingerprint process. So I mean, it's a multi-purpose area, and of course, that's been addressed in the new facility. And that is dangerous. If somebody comes in, I don't care if we're only keeping them for 2 hours, they should just go in there and stay in there. Use the bathroom in there. You have to take them out, the fingerprint them, fine. They should stay in there until they're secured and taken to the county jail. That's the armory room, which is packed, and I'm glad he's looking at his cell phone because we got the shelves. We had a very good carpenter that created all that storage space for us. But everything on the top, I think, might be in violation of the fire department. So you can keep looking at it. That's just where we process drugs and evidence seized. It could be bigger and better. It's not. And this is one of the things that I know I've spoken to all of you about. When this building was first created for the police department use, this is where evidence went. 3 lockers, 1, 2. Theoretically, an officer gets midnight shift, seizes some evidence. It could be drugs, it could be a gun, or whatever. He or she would come in here, put that gun in there, lock it, and then this key would be dropped, and nobody could get into that until the next day when the property officer would go in here on the other side and gain access to it, which is how evidence is done in police departments. The problem is it's only 3. So, you know, I mean, that's, if a guy can come back with 1 thing of drugs, it's taking up a whole locker, or 1 gun, it's taking up a whole locker. And that's it. You can't get back in until the next day, which is 7. So what we did at one point in time, you can't see it, it's over here, is that we have a couple of safes and some drop boxes that smaller evidence is put into because we just need the room. In the plans we have for the new facility, much more area to put these evidence in, secured, nobody can get to it, money, drugs, guns, other evidence, until the property officer comes in and goes in that room and from the backside takes each item out. So I mean, it's not enough room. And storage in little places, there's not enough room. Locker room is woefully inadequate. So I think that's it. So all I'm saying is, if we will do whatever you want to do, but if we are going to have a long-range plan for this facility, then we need to sit down, evaluate how much is it going to cost to get the building in order. In response to Bruce's question, I understand what you're saying, but I think some boards a while back, or some members of the board a while back said, don't put any money in this building, because originally there was some talk about maybe using it for the township offices. There was talk about maybe selling it. There was talk about bulldozing it, selling the land to somebody who might put another business. So.
My opinion is fix the roof, fix the windows, do what you can. There's no bigger advocate for getting you a new building than me. So but the building you're in is not trash either. So somebody's gonna want that building. A developer might doze it in, but we can't live with busted windows and stuff in the meantime. It'll take 2 years, once we start hammering a board together, it'll take 2 years before you're in a new building. So fix what you got.
But if I didn't go through that, we were best to not at least let you know, facing them, Mark and I can sit down and get some prices, prioritize what needs to be done and come back and let you understand. I think kind of get an idea of what.
I'll echo Bruce's comments. Windows and roof need fixed. And piling on top of that IT area, that's atrocious. There's no reason for that to look like that. That needs cleaned up. And if that means we have to get somebody to come in and clean up that wiring and make it look like something, we should. And the 4th element that you mentioned several times, Chief Meyer, was space. You know, do you do a small addition off the back end somehow?
Well, years ago, one of the first boards I worked in said, "Well, get estimates." Look at that. One of the problems is septic system actually is to the south of the building, which that's the places we add on.
So it comes back to sewer, is that what you're telling me? It comes back to sewer, is that what you're telling me?
I'm just saying, yeah, that was a thought at the time.
Well, for right now, my opinion is windows, doors, roof. I did see some violations in there as well, missing tile, blocked exits. That stuff's got to get fixed. We can't, my opinion is we can't go around and ask other business owners to live up to the code that we're not living up to. So it's got to be, make sure we're doing the same as they are. My opinion.
I just, the one thing I think you need to add on to that, though, is the IT area. That needs cleanup. Nobody wants to
And
work.
again, I
That's
think
up
part
to
of that
me.
is when the building was designed, there wasn't as much computerization and discussion.
Yeah.
And then it just got added on to and added on to and added on to. And that's, everything has come into there, all that fiber came into there, we got a fiber connection with the school, fiber came down, everything kind of came in there, and that was, when Dave Sattler retired as police lieutenant and was full-time IT, that was his office, and that's where everything was.
Yeah.
And you know how it is, the deep preventative, it's
Right.
been added on, added on, added on. Yeah, that was definitely an ambitious project right there. Everybody always kind of said, well, let's see where we're going.
I think no matter what you do at this point, you're years away from a new facility. And these items need address. So.
That's a little tiny room, IT room, about 8 feet wide, 12 feet long.
Yeah,
I think what Chief said, dispatch center was outside, but that's where all the dispatch. But now we're just adding more, and adding more.
So,
how do we handle for budgeting purposes? I mean, for budgeting purposes, the police department is fiscally sound. And if this ends up costing, you know, I don't want to throw out a number, but if this costs include replacing the roof, windows, doors, carpet, cleaning up the IT, the cost of that, I think we need to absorb. And
I think we go with Bruce's thought that, you know, it's our building, we're improving our building and
Yeah.
eventually to recapture the value.
Well, I would suggest for the capital projects funds that we have allocated that 792,000.
Mhm.
I really wouldn't suggest putting that into the capital fund until such time as we make those decisions. So when maybe we find out about the cameras, maybe we find out about the building, we don't move that money anywhere until more towards the end of the year when we see what our actual.
Yeah, much like we're doing.
Or-
We'll see that, we'll see the
Well,
regular.
wait a second, or do you put it in the capital and then when these capital items come to pass, you take it out of the capital fund?
As long as you identify how much you're putting in that capital fund for what project, because that's how, so you have to earmark what those funds are for.
Right, so you have to throw,
You'd have to put it on
fix
there, so you need the numbers to put on there and you need, you know, so that's fine, you can,
I'm in favor of doing our homework and having the detail of what's in there.
right. But until such time as we have that detail, I would leave it here. Because otherwise now you're putting money in for that list.
Okay,
I'd like to have a new list
yes,
that includes those and adds on to
Yes.
it. So that that list is all encumbering of all the money that's in it.
okay. So you're saying for purposes of appropriations, you leave a capital project contribution of 792 in there, but you don't move the money for that.
Yes.
Okay. So, sorry to beat you up on cameras a month ago, but now I know you're sound. Thank you.
All right, fire.
I just,
Are you done?
before he starts, Jim, I apologize. I committed to the 2 to 4, but I had a prior commitment, which I'm leaving in a few minutes, but I will, any questions I have, I'll talk to Janice tomorrow before the meeting, before we.
Okay.
So it's okay for us to, is it okay for us to continue the meeting?
No, yeah,
okay.
no,
All right.
I can watch the video.
Okay, here we go.
Go ahead.
We're good. Chief Bauer,
Good afternoon.
you know what, you mind if I get a drink real quick?
Good night. Meyer wore him out.
I gotta get as much mileage out of this as I can.
Oh, man. Is it just a coincidence that I step out when Bauer fits up there?
I'm sure.
Oh, my God.
Meyer's duly noted. Yeah, he wants me to ask him out in the hole.
Got it. See, Scotty.
All right. How long do you think it'll be? I won't be that.
Well, we still gotta go through all the wish list items from CISO to,
All right.
CIC. I hope you are.
So we don't have any specifics on particular capital projects. I don't have any as such, and I'll explain a little bit more. The two ambulances that we are expecting, they're kind of already in, but we've not accepted delivery. We haven't had a pay for them yet, but the funds for those, the purchases have already been approved and funds encumbered. So the only potential expenditures for capital aren't going to be considered until later on this year. I was trying to take a cue from what the board has indicated in the last few months as far as concern over this year's revenues and the economy being somewhat of a question mark. So what you'll see is the lighting upgrade is budgeted for here. But I'm not asking the board to approve that as an expenditure until later on in the year if revenue continues to look satisfactory. I'll come back to the board if we want to do that and talk to you guys about that specifically at that time.
If I could just stop you for 1 minute. So Fund 2111, which is up on the screen right now. In this, so the way the fire funds operate, there's 2111, 2191, and 2281. And at the time the levies were initially introduced and passed, it was intended that 2111 would carry all of the full-time fire salaries and benefits. And that 2191 would be for part-time salaries and benefits and operations. 2281 came later as the ambulance fund. So as the years went by, it was apparent that that 2111 fund wasn't enough to cover all of the full-time fire salaries and benefits. So we started splitting it between 2111 and 2191. In most recent years, we split it between 2111, 2191, and 2281. So this year, so we've kind of fixed the levies in that we did some increases. So this year, I really wanted to put all of the full-time fire salaries and expenses in one fund. A, to show in one fund what those expenses are. B, because up in fiscal, it's kind of a nightmare to be moving people around in different funds periodically throughout the year. So this makes it all in one spot. It did create, however, you see that this year the capital projects fund in 2111 is 0 as a contribution. But if you look in 2191, that contribution pretty much doubled from what it was last year, which kind of evens everything out is kind of what I'm saying. So 2111 here is really used for the salaries and the benefits. We have workers' comp, we have the tax collection fees, which are, you can't get away from that. This 217,000 is the ambulance that we had authorized in 2020 that was spent in 2021, which won't happen again this time. So that's kind of why there isn't a lot of carryover here and there isn't a lot of capital projects fund, but it is allowed for in the other funds, if that makes any sense.
Yes.
So.
Based on kind of a casual conversation I had with Trustee Schulte, I asked Ms. Marshall to budget $50,000 possible improvements in the building, but that's a big question mark. I don't know how to, until the board is able to indicate what kind of horizon we have for a new building, it's really hard for me to give you a recommendation on how much we should spend in the fire.
So I'm sorry.
We included 15,000 in 2191.
So you're in a little bit different boat because the annual or the maintenance of the building, unlike the police department, is handled. you don't have any leaking windows and.
No, we're in a completely different situation.
Right, so your upgrades are simply that you're out, you're bursting at the seams here and have nowhere to do your training, so on. So yes, make it as palatable as you can. I know you've made some changes down there now to make it COVID safe, which I support. Give us a little bit of time because as you know, there are talks with Akron about sewer and the building is completely hinged on sewer. So if we can get sewer going, I suspect you'll get a building going. That's my opinion there too.
We budgeted potentially $30,000 for assessments, promotions. We don't know what's going to happen with that. And I haven't updated capital improvement for vehicles. The one thing that I'm not sure about quite yet is how to look at the next, and it's going to be quite a while to do this, but at some point in the future, we'll buy another ambulance. Now, we can buy a brand new ambulance or we can do a rechest. The two ambulances that we have now, one of them we'll have to get rid of once we take delivery of our two ambulances. One that has a nice box that we can do a rechassis on has a lemon of an engine. So if we hang on to that, we've got the potential for possibly some expensive repairs to keep that going. And then the other squad with, our experience, a better engine has a deteriorating box. So it's a little bit of a crapshoot on that. We haven't really decided what to do. And the difference in cost is really probably in the vicinity of $50,000 for a new squad versus a new chassis. So we don't have to address that right now, but I just wanted to mention that because it's, kind of like, are we going to go left or are we going to go right? And again, extrication equipment, battery powered fans, things that would be nice to have. We're not asking for those. Again, later on in the year, if we have a better sense of where we're at, I might ask the board to consider those things, but not right now.
So $15,000 in facility improvements.
I think that was a misunderstanding. I was asking for 50
Oh,
rather than 15. I apologize this
that's okay.
morning. Again, that's a real swag.
And that was really to redo the what I'll call the leading quarters.
Yes,
So do you want me to put 50 in there?
that was my idea. I think that would be a good ballpark for something that would make an impact, but it's not really going to give us.
It's gonna be difficult to spend $50,000 and stay within your same walls.
Well, it's all about making it, and I don't know what's going to be involved. I don't know what is bearing weight down there, what isn't. It's about making the space that we have as efficient as possible. I don't see us growing necessarily and taking over any more space down there. We just don't have it. Just an estimate.
So back to your carryover, you're budgeting within your revenue stream.
Oh, yeah, within this 480.
Yes.
And then in 2281, we have only included the ambulance fees to Life Force
Mhm.
and a mere 5,000 in small tools. I don't even know that we had that earmarked for anything, but it was in the temporary appropriations. And then this is the payment for the water tender.
How many more payments you have on that?
This is the third of 5.
Where's that? Right?
98,000.
It probably is not on your sheets, Jim. We just kind of discovered we owed it.
Okay.
So that brings still,
So you're still well above the revenue, within the revenue stream there as well.
So that 500, last year, we only got 449 in this account.
True. And that is an arbitrary number that we put in the budget in July, so probably with COVID, we had less ambulance runs in the beginning of the year.
Okay. But I'm
So
looking
we
to,
could amend that down.
yeah, that's the revenue. So it's the revenue's probably 50 too high is my point.
probably.
And so your carryover actually increases in this account by 300 grand, right? Even after you adjust that down, the increase by 300 grand. But the carryover in 2111 goes down by 600 grand. And 2191 goes down by 120 grand.
Kind of all evens out.
No, 720 versus 300 is not evening out.
No. So.
But that it does include 400 going to capital projects.
Right.
Okay. So net, that's basically a balanced budget, except we're transferring 400 out of here into the capital. Okay.
We budgeted 210, so 420. Hopefully.
What's your annual EMS, the about 500,000, was that what you put on there, up a little
It's
further?
normally over half.
You put 500,000 on that, right?
Right, and Jim is right. Last year we had less than 500. It's about 479, did you say?
449.
449.
But the flip side to that is 2191 had 2.696, so $400,000 more.
But the reason, there was less EMS calls last year due to COVID too.
And we didn't have the Attorney General doing any kind of.
Yeah, but it's not gonna bring a big windfall, right?
We just got some checks.
We got a few $1,000s. I'm wondering if we won't see a little bit of a windfall after tax season. Tax season, because the state can furnish tax refunds.
So in 2111 is also short versus last year, 2.3 million versus the 2 million that's in your number here. The 2111 and I wish these were 2111, 2112, it'd make it a lot easier.
Yeah.
But so 2111, 2191 are both short $300,000 to $400,000 each compared to 2020 revenue.
So our 2021 revenue is short compared to 2020.
Yes, by 300 to 400 in each of those two accounts.
But again, that's because what they estimate versus what we received.
Right. But those estimates don't count some other
Other funds.
malarkey that they get every year. So I guess what I'm saying, overall, I think that's a balanced budget. You're in high cotton, so to speak.
But he's got some big expenditures coming.
And again, I would say keep that contribution to the capital fund appropriated.
Yes.
But move it more towards October, November.
So is it possible that the fire department might actually need a 5-ton international dump truck?
No. No, no. And police probably won't need
I'm
an
trying
ambulance
for
either.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we could put fire department on the side.
He's downstairs.
We could put fire department on the side, right? At least just put fire department on the door. That's all you gotta do.
That's what it takes to get it. Sure.
Okay. I have no other questions, other than the 15 versus the 50 for the internal facility.
That's gonna be a case by case. If you come up with an idea, I'm willing to do something.
I
It's gonna be
guess
difficult.
That's just it. I just don't have any ideas unless, so for instance, if you say, hey, what would you like to do if you're gonna be in a new facility in 3 years? My answer is very different than if you said, what about 7 years, what about 10 years? So it's hard for me, this year to actually say, well, this is how much.
If you were gonna expend any funds, I would be a large proponent for separation of hot and cold zone, and then separation of sleeping facilities. If it could be done.
Yeah, that's.
But for both you and for Chief Meyer, I think as far as when a new building shows up, if the new building shows up, just being realistic, going back to our discussions we had in executive session a week or 2 or 2 weeks ago, whatever the heck it was, there's some priority items that have to take place before we can proceed anywhere else. And it's going to take time to sort those out. And then once you sort those out, let's say you start to move dirt, you're 2 years out from there. Best case scenario, you're 3 years away, probably 5 years away. So as far as facility planning, your current facilities, I think you have to say that you're going to be there for the next 5 years.
I would also think, and I would ask if the board echoes this. This is not, the downstairs portion of the fire department occupied right now is probably not in the near future, or maybe even in my life, going to belong to anybody else. So that being the case, whatever improvements we make downstairs would be improvements that would be enjoyed by whatever the township decided to occupy.
I get that, but at one time, we had talked to the architect about turning that into the community room, which would entail a complete revamp of whatever's done today would be revamped to fit that. In other words, there would be offices where your kitchen and stuff is there, and then the rest of the phase would be like a community area, blocking up the doors, that sort of thing. It was about a $1 million project, but it was.
If that ends up true, but if that ends up happening.
Right.
It's repurposed for that particular.
Well, my statement would be, you're saying that anything you do today will be enjoyed by the future. That might not be accurate if it's repurposed.
Might not be, but I guess my point is for both Chief Bauer and Chief Meyer, you're probably 5 years out before any facility changes. So you have to make improvements to get through for 5 years. And so that's what I would plan on. And in my mind, that means windows and doors and roof, fire department or police department. And
Well, we'll know, we should know in 4 months what your time frame is. I'm hoping it's not 5 years, but I know it's 2 years because like I told Chief Meyer, once you start pouring concrete and hammer boards together, it's a 2-year deal before you're really in there. So at least 18 months, and then by moving in and everything, you can figure a 2-year window there.
I'm not saying a word. I'm just,
Good. Taking to the hand.
yeah.
So we know it's 2. We know probably it's 3, but hopefully it's less than 5. That gives you an idea. All right. Anything else, Chief?
Nothing unless you got something. You like that? That's how it's done.
He didn't murder any trees or burn up about a gallon of green ink.
That's kind of it.
Your presentation was so stellar, Chief Meyer, that he had to, he bowed.
No way.
So we've got about $1,033,000 of projects in the general fund that we got to squeeze into a $500,000 bucket.
Well, let's do that. Let's go there.
I totaled it up just while we were sitting there. It is $1,033,000.
Yeah, but some of that can't be done this year.
Some of it can't be done this year. And what's our total?
So let's look at what we have to do this year, or what we want to do. Where's the priority list that we came up with last week?
My notes are with Beth as she's typing up the
Minutes?
minutes. But I can get them. sure she's.
And we have 546 available. Basically, we got to cut out.
Before we do that, Janice, is there any reason to keep the department heads? Well, maybe loud. So, you guys want to stay? Okay, you're welcome to. You don't have, if you don't want to, you don't have to. Loud, we probably do need you. Sorry. See ya. Thanks, Mark.
I really want I want the 5-ton truck moved into the fire department.
Full purpose.
Yeah,
We'll get Gavin, Jesse, heating up.
telling you.
Just don't take it down a little far.
Across the bridge with it.
Save a little bit. Right.
What bridge? Knox
Knox
on,
Boulevard Bridge is deteriorated to the point that you have a 5-ton load limit. So that'd
when did
be-
we hear about that?
Huh?
When did we hear about that, or did I miss that?
Just heard that. Just put out to me, there's a bridge study. 5 bridges. That's in there.
Today?
No, not today. I sent it.
No, that was, I still don't know where we got, it ended up on.
I talked to the county and I talked to the county. He said if they put that out, unbeknownst, they didn't change the format. It was still an interoffice memo.
Okay.
So I talked to Bob Hochbar, the bridge engineer, and I said, hey, before I go up, was this meant to go out? Or what? He said, yeah, it was, just don't worry. So,
Don't worry about it. Wait. It's got a 5-ton limit.
yeah, I
Okay,
thought I sent that out.
there are-
I really thought I sent that out.
If you did, I missed it, and I'm
Well,
sorry.
then I apologize if I did not.
No, you may have. I may have missed it, so.
Well, we had to request the evaluation.
Right.
Wait a
So we
minute.
got the evaluation for the fire trucks, which vehicles would be permitted to go across that bridge to culvert.
There's not a fire truck we have under 10,000 pounds.
Well, only 2 of the trucks that are 50,000 or more cannot cross that. The other ones can only cross infrequently and for emergency only. And I wrote back and said, well, I appreciate what you're doing here and everything. Here's my trucks, because I.
What are the
didn't
two?
know about plow trucks.
Tender and the ladder?
Ladder is
Oh,
one
yeah,
of
yeah,
them.
I would not even try.
Ladder.
Well, wait a minute. There's only 2.
Yes,
That's gonna be the tender and the ladder.
I believe.
There's no water back there.
No water. So they're not supposed to go over it, period. All the other apparatus can go over it on an infrequent emergency basis.
Well, cheap power.
Now,
That's not good.
now,
You can't get a tender back there? What are you doing about that?
they're looking to repair the bridge, but,
Great, that's great, until
Well-
the house burns tonight.
Well, you can go by infrequently.
you're going across the bridge.
You can go across infrequently. Like when there's a
Yeah,
fire.
Not with.
A tender or the ladder.
tender
And the tender has to go.
or tender.
The tender has to go down that road. Ladder does not. Tender does.
Yeah, there's nothing down there yet. So anyway, I asked about my plow trucks, and they're gonna give me notice on those too. Because I, TVR, I knows, TVWR, I knows are 37,000. Plus you've got 2,000 pound plow on the front of it, so we're exceeding it too. So we're gonna find out about that. But there are plans started, don't know where they're at, on replacing those culverts.
Well,
No.
if there was a report of people in a structure fire, I would back anybody that took the tender across there and deal with the county later. Right, chief?
Well, you gotta consider, what about garbage truck?
Yeah.
Garbage truck, school bus, I don't know, if school buses run back there. All the other delivery vehicles, I don't know.
I'm just saying you have my support. You took the tender across there
Yeah,
for
you
needed.
know, I appreciate that. The other thing that I think about is we take something over that thing and it collapses. Now, no, ain't nothing else getting it. So it's tough, you know, do you hold back and then just send every engine you've got to deal with the situation that you have at hand. You know, we're gonna be fighting a fire with one hand tied behind our back. You know, honestly, if we've got somebody trapped, I don't think getting that picture back necessarily will be the difference between life and death. Because it's gonna be that first 5 minutes.
Each situation is gonna be different. Right. All right.
I say, if I did, then that's my fault. I thought it was.
Well, if you did and I missed it, I apologize. So,
See y'all.
okay.
See, Mark.
See, Mark?
See ya.
So I came up with $1,034,000 of capital of one-off projects. And.
What was our priority list?
Well, here you go. CISO, 80 grand. Technology, 5 grand. Can't read my own writing for 16 grand.
Technology, what was the technology for?
I was thinking,
Adding the videos to the website
Okay, what else? Then,
and an ID maker. So together, that's about 83,000,
8,300?
8,300.
Oh, okay.
Sidewalk, we can do the sidewalk. This
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Sidewalk.
So, well, let's read the list, the priority list we had.
All right, so I got it. I didn't know what the $16,000 item was.
That's the security cameras.
Security cameras. There you go.
At
That's
the
what,
park.
that's what that says. $7,500 for the depot shingles. Tri-State, $100,000. Senior playground, 50 grand. And
Okay, but that, was that on our priority list?
No, you're talking about two different things. So he's talking about the priority list that we had today that we
Right.
went through, and then he means the one from the meeting before.
Right.
the one for the meeting before Tri-States was on there, yes.
Yeah, but
Yes, but it was
Correct.
number.
that's what I'm getting at.
Oh, as far as the priority, okay.
Right.
So technology wasn't on there. Security
No.
cameras wasn't on there.
Correct, those were not.
Right.
CISO was,
Depot was not on
the
our,
CISO was,
CISO was.
yes.
CISO was, Tri-States was for 100 grand. Senior playground was for 50 grand. Cancer for 350 was.
Parking at the circle was.
Yep.
And would you have an estimate on that?
100 grand was what she had in the budget.
Yes.
Okay,
And Cleveland Massillon sidewalk for 50.
Right.
okay, add those up.
$730.
So was the land acquisition.
That was in there.
Yeah, I've got
Oh, you have
Cancer in
that
there.
in
Panzers.
Cancer is in there.
Probably shouldn't have said that. in open
Right.
session. Okay.
Cool. But I got 730 and we got 550 to spend unless we trim 200 out of the budget somewhere else. Or we dip into the deficit. Now, having said that, will the land acquisition all be incurred this year? Will the,
And encumbering would be,
okay,
you'd have to encumber the funds. It might not, cash might not leave, but
right.
same thing.
So we could encumber and there's another allotment of funds coming in 2022.
So we have more
Still-
money than just what's in the capital improvements budget. We have other funds.
Well, you do, but if you're looking at account 1,000, right? I mean, it's basically, if you pull out all these capital items that I did, it's basically break even. And at this point, all my pages are disrupted.
So if we first talk about the CIC funding. So if we take that 225,000 and say that their funding this year is going to be property donations,
Mhm.
that what of these items in the general fund would you want to move into fund number 2902? And that would be this CISO engineering,
Yep,
senior playground,
yep.
tri-state trail. So right there is about 225.
Mhm. You don't have the land acquisition there, do you?
Yeah.
That's already down in the capital?
No, it's in 1,000.
Okay.
It is in there, you say?
It's right here.
Okay. That's why I did that.
So I think you've got to move that down there too. As well, I think that, the community center at the park. So line 126, line 131, 132, all has to go down into the capital fund, 2904.
Right, 2902, but you
Thanks.
don't have 4, 5, that's 550,000.
Right.
And then what happens to your Cleveland Lassland sidewalk, middle school parking lot? Which
You
is
take
already
that
in
out of the other-
2902.
We have other general fund monies though. We take them out of a different account.
Well, let's start with just the general fund. How far south are we in the general fund?
You need them in the capital fund?
No, just in the general fund, as she currently has before we move anything. Right? We're going from a carryover 1.8 to a carryover 900. So we're 900 short. Now, having said that, what was the actual revenue last year? It was for 1,000. It was 2.1, but that included we said you were right on the nickel. Sorry. Never mind. You were right on the nickel at 1.7. That estimate for county.
Right.
Yeah.
So really, if you want to do the Cleveland Massland sidewalk and you want to do the middle school parking lot, then you have in the 2902 fund, you have about 400,000, right?
Plus the carryover. You've got a total of 546 in there.
All right, so 150 is coming out for the middle school parking lot and the sidewalk. So that's 300 left,
Yes, 400 left.
400 left.
Mhm.
All right, so you can move, that helps. You can move the land acquisition to that account and CISO engineering. And then decide if you want to keep these other ones in the general fund, if you want to do them at all.
Okay. So let's do that. Let's move those, let's move the land acquisition and the CISO to 2094. Bruce, you okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So far, we're still funding.
No, that would
No.
replace the funding for the CIC.
Keep sharpening the pencil. I don't want to cut them off completely this year because we didn't tell them we're going to do that.
It's a matter of priorities. That's all it is. And
I get it.
we're not saying CIC isn't an important function for the community and for the growth of the township. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying I just, instead of funding them with cash, I want to fund them with property.
Okay, so let's do that. Let's estimate the value of the property we're giving them and then offset it. Let's give them that plus cash
Okay.
to make the 225.
So our acquisition price for 3 parcels south of town hall was $750. So I guess they owe us $500,000.
Well, we got, you can't, I didn't buy it either. So
Okay.
what's it worth is what I'm going at. I'm looking at 140 here. I'm looking at Kathleen Jacoby as being another 30 or 40.
Yeah, I think the plan was for those parcels to reimburse for township expenditures. You could, if the CIC sells those parcels and come back to the table to determine a service fee we talked about, the CIC could just receive all the expenses instead of reimbursing.
What's
the
the
township.
CIC budget?
About 238.
Then the other property, of course, is Steel Firehouse.
Yeah, but that's probably not going to worth anything.
Well, but hear me out. As on the old firehouse, let's just talk about that really quickly. That's been kicking around here for a long time.
I agree.
And you know, it was something that when I first became a trustee a little over a year ago, I said we needed to deal with. And there's been progress, but we're still in never land. And I don't think, I think the CIC is better positioned to deal with the complex issues there than the township trustees are. I believe that.
No doubt.
So
You
I
might not, you know how much storage is in that building right now?
understand.
And the PD might need to store more stuff there until their building's built.
Well, I don't think the PD is going to want to store property
No, then you store records.
off site. So But my point is, the 3 properties north, the Jacoby property, and the old fire department should all go to CIC in lieu of 225. And hopefully the CIC makes progress therefore. Therefore, we focus the CIC on these properties that right now aren't garnering the township anything.
We know that, but I mean, their balloons are about ready to blow up too. They've got some stuff. Their big holdup currently was getting the agreement that they knew that it gave them the strength or the warm blanket to pull over themselves and know they were doing what the township wanted or what they could do. So.
Yeah, and that designation agreement it says that, they're going to be the preferred choice to deal with these properties. So let's do it.
I get it, but I don't want to make them cash poor over it. Loudon, you're running the show there. Janice, you're on it. Give me a little help here.
Hughes probably has a better handle on the budget aspect of things, but I think, yeah, it would probably be nice if there was a way to bridge the gap instead of just black cut it off. Because it's just not making a ton of revenue right now. It's the transfer of properties, make a sale, and mark them. Some of them don't have marketability because of the utility issues that are faced by them for central services to develop them commercially. So I think it will take time to generate revenue off those properties. But
How much money does CIC currently have in the bank?
About-
238,000.
It's not a lot.
making revenue off
Okay,
including 2 parcels right now.
so they have 238 in the bank. Do they have anything pressing as far as their agenda? And I'm not asking you to disclose confidential information, but if there's something that's right around the corner where they're gonna deploy the existing cash, well, okay, that's one thing. But to my knowledge, there's nothing on the table right now where they're gonna deploy the existing cash.
So you're probably right. However, my argument to that would be that they've been somewhat lackluster because they're brand new. They really don't have a good feeling of what they can or are allowed to do, or what they think the township wants to do. That's getting rectified here just in days, right? You'll get that document back from Firestein and be done with it, correct?
The designation.
Yes.
Yeah, that's done. I'm gonna have,
Jessica needs to sign it.
yeah.
That's it.
Okay, so that's just now finishing up. So it should give them the
Clarity.
the power, the clarity of their power to go out and start making things happen. I don't want to cut them off. I don't want to give them the power and then cut the revenue off at the same time. Now, however, I am 100% with you that we have priorities too. We have things that we need to get done. Can we afford to do that list? I know it's going to take more than what's in 2902, but are there other funds available to do the rest of this list? And the answer to that is yes, it's in our carryover from last year.
But if you're asking me, should we invade our carryover, our general fund balance, put more money into a subordinate organization that's already sitting on $250,000 of our cash? I'm struggling doing that in a budget. Let me finish. I'm struggling doing that in a budget process where, 6 months out, midway through this budget cycle, they could come to us with a specific idea, a specific project, and we can act at that point.
So you want us to be their piggy bank?
Well, what I don't want to do is have them store all our money for us and basically prevent us from doing our other topics on our agenda.
And I don't have an issue with that. I'm fine with that, actually. I'm a proponent for that. But not after we told them their money for this year is coming. Now, if we can't, so Jim, what I'm saying is if we can't afford to do it because we have all these other projects, I'm with you. But if we can,
Oh, yeah.
then do it. Now, the can is just like with Mark Mitchell's account, they don't have a capital improvements account. We didn't either. So a majority of our capital improvement is taken from carryover. It's our savings account that we build up over time. So now, let's say if we do everything, Janice, if we do pay the $225,000 to the CIC, and we fund these projects that are fundable this year, where are we at total revenue carryover for into 2022?
That's the first. If we do all of that, then our carryover in the general fund is 908,000.
That's what we had from 2020.
Our carryover from 2020 was $1.8 million. If we do all the projects and fund the CIC, then our carryover is 908.
And that includes the funds in 2902?
No, that's
Plus
just general fund. Then
Okay.
2902. It'd be nice if they were just right next to
I
it.
tell you,
Just computer, like,
Oh, 2902 would be 171,000.
so you're still having nearly $1 million carryover, Jim. If we give the CIC, regardless what fund it comes out of, whatever account number it comes out of, still gonna do all these projects and have $1 million carryover. My point is, I don't wanna give them, they swore they didn't have a hammer. I argued against that. So this document gives them the hammer. Now I don't wanna take their nails away.
and we're not. All I'm saying is, let's not go to them now. They already have over $250,000 of township funds.
Granted, I
Okay.
get that.
And, you know, what are they going to do in the short term to expend that $250,000? If they have a grand plan to improve the township that will require more cash, they can come to us.
Well, correct, but I can't fault them for not having a plan because they don't know what they were really allowed to do. They're a little bit afraid of their own shadow.
But the township has a plan. We want these priority items
Why don't we give them the money and have them do some of these plans?
because that's beyond their scope of CIC. And
Sidewalks aren't.
well, we've already said that in last meeting that we're handling that here.
Well, here's another one. There's another parking project
Yeah, I
that we
mean,
really need to do.
if we want to, you know, subrogate all of our responsibilities to CIC, that's a different discussion. I'm not in favor of that. I'm in favor of the trustees
I get that. I
making the
get that.
decisions on these things. So, and you know, we sat here in our planning sessions last week and leading up there too. We said, these are our priority projects. We have a plan. Are some of the numbers airballs, guesses as far as their costs? Absolutely. But I would rather stick with our known plan than fund a subordinate organization that's not sure how they're going to use the money.
So what I'm gonna tell you both now is there's a firefighter arguing against accountant about numbers. So either you're gonna help or you're gonna go down with the ship.
Three things, like potentially, we've got a call scheduled for tomorrow. State about some grant programs that I think 3 or 4 of these projects would be in. So ideally, town funding necessarily, and the funds might not be spent until next year if we get a grant fund. So that hopefully will result in some grant funding for at least 2 or 3 of these. I think they line up. Projects we talked about, the parking lot, I didn't think it might qualify, but I think it actually will, even though it's offsite. I think maybe doing 1 senior projects this year, hopefully also getting grant funding through that because it is the class of senior citizens. Would also help with the funding that we've got 100,000 for both of those projects.
Mhm.
Maybe we prioritize one of those projects. It's a building for the playground. And then I think honestly, the parking lot project, I know, I get what you're saying, and I don't think it's necessary to delegate all these responsibilities to the CIC, but that CIC does own adjacent property to that. It would be a city improvement in the center of town. That might be a good project for the CIC trying to tackle not only grant funding, but how to coordinate within that area, within the property that they own.
And they wouldn't have to go through the same process as we would have to do with bids and all that stuff.
They'd have to deal with the middle school, right? They'd have to deal with the school system. And you're telling, and would CIC be eligible for some of the grants that you just mentioned?
It's a big question on one program. The one program which is through the state, the Nature program, will be a little bit of a stretch because it is related to recreation area. We're kind of classifying the circle as that.
Certainly.
So that might be
Our concert series there.
Right. So that might be a little bit of a stretch for qualifying for that. So, I don't know if-
But then when you designate it out to CIC, can CIC actually go get that grant money as opposed to the township?
I'll have to look on that on the 501c3s. I mean, I know obviously the township qualifies for that, but that's probably a conversation.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of those grants can be regional too, so you can have more than one entity on it. So the CIC and the township and the schools
Can all join
applying for
force.
the grant make a difference.
I just see no reason to strip the general fund of $225,000 when we have projects on the radar right now that are more than we can afford.
Yeah, but I see what you're saying. I can't really argue against it, other than we have verbally committed to them, and it does not put us in the deficit.
Just like we had a discussion with Mark Mitchell about the service department, his 5-ton truck, that we have to, that it really does eat into his carryover balance. When you're eating into your carryover balance, you're not balancing your budget.
I get that, but still, that budget, those carryovers, not called capital improvements,
It's not called
those
capital.
those carryovers were savings that had built up over years for projects.
And for cash flow, right? And for handling the first quarter expenses when we get to the end of the year and all those other things. And I,
So I don't think I have a problem with holding the contribution and not doing it in the first quarter of the year because they don't have an immediate need. I'd like to leave it in the appropriations and earmarked for a CIC donation. Pending finding out about these grants, finding out if it's feasible to do all these projects this year, finding out if they come up with a project that they want to do. I don't think it needs to be, just because you budget it, you don't have to write the checks tomorrow.
Right.
So I like the idea of keeping it on the appropriations though, because we have passed a resolution committing funds to the CIC as an independent body, as a tool for the township's economic development. And I would hate to not renege, but kind of go back on that 2 years into it. They already maybe are a little cautious about, is this really a thing or not? So I'm kind of where you are in that they don't have a need for it right away. We've sat on this $250,000 for a year. We might not need it at all. But I do kind of want to keep it earmarked for them to go along with what we've committed to.
We made 2 payments to them?
Yeah.
Two $225,000.
The first one was with the resolution and the second one was just following the resolution. This would now be the third one. So it's kind of in 2 years. We've done that, but I just kind of hate to go back on that.
Here's another thing. It sends a message that the previous boards have not been able to set a plan that has any longevity to it. I know things change.
do you want me to comment on that?
No, there are shoe holes in it, I can tell already. I'll go with what Janice says, put it on the budget. See how it goes towards the end of the year. But I will tell you, if the difference is, we can't do all these projects. There's not enough money in the capital improvements account to do all these projects without paying the 225 to the CIC.
No, you have to lose the 225 to the CIC. You have to probably take out the community center. Now you're pushing 300 grand, closing the deficit. We had a $450,000 deficit.
Right. So we're going to cut into that carryover at some point.
So
What makes the difference if we do it this or this, here or here?
well, the only point is, are you cutting into it 150 or are you cutting it into it?
375.
Yeah.
Well, in my opinion, because that money is really moving it from one pocket to another, and we have not given them fair warning.
But you can never get it back.
I get that. I would still do it. The difference in the deficit between 1.25 and 375, or I'm sorry, 1.25 to 150 to 375. I would do that this year, but I would put them on notice the last time too. That's what I would do. But I don't have to write the check today.
So here's what really I'm struggling with, okay? We sat and we all went through and we said, we want these specific things. We want to deal with CISO. Yeah, let's go after that property acquisition that was strategic. Let's deal with circle parking, and let's deal with the Cleveland Mausland sidewalk issue here, and let's go to the senior playground. We said those were issues we wanted, specifically identified.
Right.
Okay?
And I'm fine with that.
So
I don't care if it comes out of 2902 or 1011.
So the problem is, if those are your priorities, then the seventh item, if you will, is putting 2.25 into an organization that hasn't spent the last 2.25.
No, when we were talking about that, I had already known that we had encumbered that or had that. I knew full out we were paying that already.
I did.
That's why we're having this argument.
And Scott did.
Well,
But he
so,
wants to go
it's-
fishing. I got to go.
Well,
so we've talked about that 225,000 also going to pay for bonds on sewer.
right.
So are we defunding the CIC and not having them be an entity?
So, I think strategically, and this goes back to your comment about prior boards can't make any commitments and live up to the long term. So too bad, so sad. I think long term, I can't foresee the township continuing to put 2.25 into the CIC forever.
I never intended it ever be forever. I never intended that. I figured it would go from anywhere between 3 and 6 years, plus donating property to them. By that time, they have to sink or swim. That's my intention. I just can't do it after they know full well they've got that funds coming this year. I'll put them on notice for next year.
So, and then the other thing that gives me some consternation is these are 6 big projects that we're going to be spending a lot of internal time trying to tackle. Okay. And meanwhile, we have these vacant properties, underutilized properties that we own that we haven't been able to tackle. And what we're really saying is, please, CIC, pay attention to these. Well, if they're paying attention to those and marketing those properties and converting those to cash like we want them to do, then they're not going to have a plan for another $250,000 of our money, because they should be focusing on what we asked them to focus on.
Maybe not, but again, I can't go back on. I can't. They know it's coming. We told them it was coming. So give it to them this year. Don't have to be today, but if it means that between $125,000, $150,000 deficit to a 375, I'm fine, because we still have $1 million carryover. And that's estimating if we get everything done and we don't have any other income, which we always do. Right, Janice?
Well,
So that $1 million
for
estimate,
account 1,000, Janice nailed the income pretty tight to 2020.
correct, but Janice, with your experience, if we had that $1 million carryover, we spent the CIC money, did all these projects, had $1 million carryover projected, what will our actual carryover be?
So, well, we might get some more revenue, minimal, because there is $200,000 in the certificate for other. What usually happens is we don't spend everything that we've encumbered
Mhm.
or that we've appropriated. So, there's been years that it's looked like at this point in the year, it's looked like we're barely going to make it on general fund. And it comes out to be $2 million carryover. So it's always conservative. I mean, these numbers are totally conservative. The expenses are high and the revenue is low. And so that's how we've always been able to not have to reappropriate things and amend things because you just budget conservatively. So I can't say a number of what we would end up with, but it has traditionally worked that it's been a conservative approach.
Yes, so that million is gonna be more. So I have no issue with that. We have $1 million projected and end up moving over 1.3. And then tell the CIC that we're going to cut back because we have projects. I'm okay with that, but we got to give them a notice.
Then I would hope you would give them a notice that they're not getting more cash.
I have no issue with that. Or tell them we don't know about next year. And if we do,
You know what, it's about performance.
yeah, absolutely.
Right.
It is.
If they take the cash they currently have, that we've already funded them,
Mhm.
and they put it to such tremendous use that it's good for the community,
Right, they hit a couple
then
slam
you know
dunks.
what? Here's some more.
Right, correct.
I haven't seen
Right.
those home runs.
We haven't, but that's not their fault.
Haven't seen bunt singles, maybe. And so at some point, you have to say, if I'm funding a fire department that can't put out a fire, I have to look at the fire department and say, that might not be a good use of funds. But our fire department puts out the fires every time.
Correct,
So
but I
it's good
think
use
we're
of money.
selling them short too soon.
Okay.
What we're doing is, we're putting them in the batting cages, warming them up and not putting them on the plate. I think.
Yeah.
Thanks for the help there, Loudon.
I just like to see more sports now.
All right,
Okay, they've never been in the red zone. How's that? Their only hope at this point is a bomb.
Or they could become the Oral Roberts University and just kill everybody and,
Who would have thought OU would be pursuing? Yeah.
so are we okay now? Are we still got our priorities? You're gonna put those priorities in this budget as well?
I'm not changing the priorities in this budget at
Okay.
this point.
And we still have the 225,000 in there. So I won, okay, that's good.
Wait a minute. All right. We need Scott to
But
weigh.
we're writing the check.
We need Scott to weigh in on the 225.
There is no check coming this week.
But we're gonna leave, but we all agree on these items, and we all agree
Yes,
on pursuing all
absolutely.
these items.
Which, by the way, Janice mentioned before, is probably the first time I've seen that happen in a long time. Which gives you guys good direction on where to go.
Yeah. No, you guys, as the year goes on, we'll see some of these things are going to move on or become priority. So the projects will change. CIC funding when we get there.
And
So-
they're not
Yeah.
waiting for the money. So.
And before
I just don't
tomorrow
wanna
night's,
pull out the commitment.
before tomorrow night's trustee meeting, will you have a better play on if maybe some grant money is available for some of these projects so that these numbers could be amended for tomorrow night?
Well, I wouldn't amend them until we know you have.
Well, I'm just,
I think we'll know what projects could receive funding,
Okay.
what would qualify.
okay.
So if there's 5 projects on the list and now only 2 of them, probably going to get that. I won't be able to say what. I'll at least know for sure, the purpose of this conversation will to know what we're going to target this grant application for these highway projects. So we'll probably able to generic.
Okay. When I saw this resolution from the fire department, I thought he was trying to buy another the water tender truck. And I was like, what the hell? We already have one of them.
Need to buy one under 50. Not, you
Can't
gotta
take
buy,
either one of them down my boulevard.
you gotta buy one under 9,000 pounds now.
So tomorrow I'm going to have the resolution with line items for each fund. And then behind it is the accounts per account, like this spreadsheet that's up.
Okay.
And that's
Say that
what-
again, I'm sorry.
So this will be backup to the resolution that I'll prepare.
Okay,
The
okay.
resolution will have fund 1,000 X dollars, 2081 X dollars, 21. So you won't see the detail on the resolution, but it's the backup behind it.
Okay,
And that's what fiscal will use to put into the UAN.
okay. Are we done?
And so,
Anything else for the board?
I just want to be on record that Bruce did not win on the 225 CIC.
Watch me. Motion to adjourn.
Go ahead.
A second. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, folks. Mike didn't stay very long.